reviews.
Really?
Yeah, it's so weird.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. We can talk about it, but I'm not much of a yeller. I don't know if you've seen my show, but I don't.
It's like
people are looking for fireworks from me.
I'm not getting enough views. Do more yelling. More yelling.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So we
come
are
out with the personal attacks and insults because that's all people know how to do these days, and so
Yep.
Totally. I should come on as a character sometime and just totally ham up the most stereotypical douchebaggy Christian ever. Like get like a whole, I don't know, suit and tie and like glasses and.
Gotta get like the massive gold cross chain thingy.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We do like a reverse day. I'll do like the stereotypical Christian. You do the stereotypical atheist. Like.
I would fucking love that. That'd be great, dude. That'd be hilarious. And we would have a debate.
Yes, I did that once. I actually did that with.
Did you really? Love that.
I was the Christian and he was the atheist.
And I would love to see that. I'll have to watch that sometime.
I thought it was really fun because I got to like make up what I thought would be good evidence. So I was like, God answers every one of my prayers. You know what? I pray for gold brick, gold brick.
There you go. There it is.
My Aunt Slim got
How do you deny that logic, right?
Exactly.
It's hilarious.
So we are live. People in the chat are saying words, and that's good.
There you go. Words. Multiple words.
Yep. So awesome. Dan, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate you taking the time to have a conversation with me. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Yeah, sure. My name's Dan. I am the proprietor of the Dear Christians podcast. It's been running now for, I think we're in our third season. Fourth year though. I took a year off just because of COVID and because my first season pissed in a lot of Christians' pots, maybe a little too much, and I needed some time off to try and, I guess, get through some mental health issues of my own without getting too crazy in depth on it, and just kind of determining whether or not I still wanted to do this, because apparently I piss a lot of people off. So kind of landed in the place of going, yeah, this is still worth it. And these conversations, even though they're hard, and even though they tend to piss off a lot of the fundamentalist and traditionalist, evangelical church community, especially, of which I came out of and grew up in. I really don't give a shit. This stuff is worth talking about and having an honest conversation with people. So the tagline of the show is just honest conversations about Christianity and culture. That's all it is.
Awesome.
I don't do debates or anything like that. Although occasionally I'll bring people on with differing viewpoints and they'll debate, or whatever, but not like formal debates or anything like that, I am still Christian, still follow Jesus, but I think a phrase that I use, and I stole it from someone else, I stole it from a guy named Shane Claiborne. If you're familiar with him at all, he's in New York area. He's a author, former pastor maybe, but he's more like an activist and like a progressive guy right now, and doing a lot of social justice efforts. And he says in a book years ago that I've loved stealing this phrase, I gave up being a Christian to follow Jesus. And that kind of grabs people's attention. Like, what the fuck does that mean, right? Isn't that what Christians are supposed to be? Blah, 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 blah. It's a nice way to start a conversation. So kind of stole that. I use that from time to time. But,
what does it mean?
It means I gave up being a Christian, as in the stereotypical ideology of what that's supposed to mean and supposed to look like here in the United States, especially. I feel like so much of politics and conservative, agenda and all of that seems to have completely derailed a lot of what Christians are supposed to be focused on with their life and what it means to follow Jesus. When you look at things like, the story of the Good Samaritan, right? And when you look at examples like what are the two greatest commandments, loving God and loving your neighbor, and love is supposed to be, you know, defined as, being patient, kind, gentle, meek, all that awesome stuff. Not a lot of Christians are really known as that nowadays. And I think you probably know and have experienced that as much, if not more than me over the last several years. So if that's what it means to be a Christian, is to not be those things, then I'm giving that up because I want to follow Jesus and do all of that. So it's to the best of my ability anyway. So yeah. So that's, I guess, kind of what that means in the long and the short of it.
Yeah, when I heard you say it, the first thing that came to my mind was like apologists, people who like are on stage, philosophers who are arguing against the existence of God. And I was like,
oh,
because you said apologesis, and I was like, is that a joke to make fun of apologists? I'm like, yes, I love it.
That's hilarious. Apologesis. There you go. Like exegesis, but apologesis. Yeah. No. Yeah. Giving up being a Christian, to follow Jesus. That's basically me in a nutshell. So
you mentioned you pissed a lot of people off, especially Christians. How so? What was the topics here?
Okay, so over the last 3 seasons, like pick a topic, I've probably done something to agitate somebody. Last season we had I had on Rick Lockhart. I don't know if you know who he is. Gay, black man, loves Jesus. Had him on, and we had an awesome conversation about what it means to be a Christian and how hard it is to follow Jesus and grow up in the church and to be gay. And it was a great and really awesome and affirming conversation, I think, for a lot of people who are in the midst of like Christian culture, or they're in the Bible Belt, or they deal with that struggle, that pressure, that dynamic. And it's almost as if the church puts them in the position of being like, no, if you want to follow Jesus, you have to deny and reject things that are a genuine part of who you are, that you have no control over, right? So that agitated people, as you can imagine. Some people didn't like that. We also had an episode as a 2-part conversation about a guy who pursued a career in politics. He got real deep into career in politics and the Republican Party. He was in Washington. He was doing stuff here in Springfield in Illinois and helping with several presidential campaigns over the years. And through the transition of eventually leading up to the nomination and election of Donald Trump, he just realized, you know what? I cannot do this anymore and be true to who I believe I'm supposed to be if I'm supposed to be following Jesus. So that episode was leaving the GOP for Jesus. That was a huge, like, man, did people hate that episode?
Yeah, I can imagine.
Conversation. Holy shit, Tom, you have no idea. Like, I had hate mail being sent to me, stuff online. I'm getting information from my guest after the episode's released, saying that they're like going after him, and people are tracking him down online, and he shares the same name as his father, like senior, junior, that sort of deal.
Oh, wow.
So then he's getting stuff where like people are like doing background checks and finding his father, and then like harassing his father, saying, do you know what your son is doing? And yeah, like just the craziest shit.
Yeah, the in-group out-group thing is like, we face that on both sides, where there's the demonization of, if you disagree with certain sacrosanct ideas, then everybody in that in-group just thinks it's okay to attack you. Like that happens a lot on both the left and the right, for religious beliefs, political beliefs. If you disagree with like any of the super left ideas on in atheism, like transgender, if you say anything against transgenderism, like I did a debate on, is it always the case that if you say transgender or trans women are not always women. Is that always transphobic? And I said no, because people could just not want to use the word that way, or just not believe the word that way.
Right.
I got so much hate mail from
Oh my
all of the
God.
atheists. It's just
Yeah.
really like it's
And
it's
there's right. And there's and it's yeah, I get dude, I get it. I get it. And I'm like I consider myself to be an ally of that community. Like I'm having people who are gay and lesbian on my show, and we're having genuine conversation about that and trying to bring more awareness and support for everything that that community is genuinely dealing with, and trying to just figure out life for themselves, and if faith can possibly fit into that. And yeah, dude, like it's so funny. I feel like Patton Oswalt. You ever see Patton Oswalt when he did his bit on like, hey,
yes,
the the worst people in the world can know all of the terminology and sound like they're the most, uppity whatever, and yet they're the most terrible people.
yep,
And they know all the terminology and sound just fine. But then some of the most like on your side, genuine allies in this cause, and people who you do not want to like piss off because they're genuinely with you, but then you get super anal retentive about the wrong terminology of something, and you totally miss the spirit behind what they're trying to say,
yep,
and recognize that they're actually with you. And it's like, man, you lose people by being that intense about it.
yeah, exactly.
Um, so I try to show grace, as often as I can, and demonstrate that as best as I can in my own life. But yeah, dude, people get real intense about it. And on the right too, for sure. I mean, what the hell was January 6th if not people getting insanely irate and super sensitive about shit that they had no control over, right?
Yep,
Um, yeah. So yeah, so that was a conversation. What else have I done discussions on? Oh, I had a lady that came out on my show as lesbian, and she also came out as a witch of all things on my show.
oh
I
wow,
did not know that before the conversation. That was a great discussion. That aspect of it wasn't huge in the conversation as part of it, but the biggest part of that conversation was actually about having her on as a licensed therapist and talking about growing up in purity culture, and how purity culture has seriously fucked up a lot of marriages, a lot of people, a lot of relationships. And that conversation is well worth listening to. It's a great discussion. So, and I got one episode. It's out right now on my YouTube channel because we did it as a live discussion. And then the audio portion of it is going to be released here shortly about child abuse in Christianity, and how a lot of Christianity's intense like clinging to like corporal punishment and spanking and very authoritarian focused kind of styles of leadership in the home has allowed Christian communities to be one of the last essentially safe havens for people who are genuinely abusive authoritarian psychopaths to live and operate and remain essentially hidden for way too long, and not unlike sex abuse and sex scandals and all of that sort of stuff, and child abuse and whatnot. Like that's becoming, people are more aware of that. People are more aware of like when grooming's taking place and that sort of stuff, and it's on more people's radar. The church had to recognize and shift some of its training and understanding of that side of things, and realize, hey, just because it's like this is the way the secular world is doing it and what they're learning about it, that doesn't mean that it's wrong or unbiblical. Like we can learn from that and apply it to our congregation to keep our people safe, to keep our kids safe, right? But physical abuse and like genuine torture and that sort of thing, for some reason, parents just really love spanking their kids. And that authoritarian, it's my way or the highway, you're my kid, you do it, and you do it now or else. That's created a lot of one of the only places left for people who thrive on that kind of an idea to continue to operate. And the church has to change and recognize that that's not okay. and we need to be more open about the fact that that can and probably does exist in our own congregations. And we need to be more willing to learn from other parenting experts who gives a shit what their religious beliefs are, and allow them to help educate us on how to do it better so that these scumbags can't hide in our congregations anymore. So that was a great conversation. That was with a guest, M. Dolan Hickman, I think is his last name. He's an author and activist, and it was a great conversation too. So that one's going to be releasing audio-wise here pretty soon. I think that'll be in 2 episodes too. So
awesome. So how do you first question that comes to mind is all of the progressive Christianity ideas seem to be in conflict with a lot in the Bible. Like in the Bible, it says you can beat your wife as long as you use a stick that's like not as wide as your thumb or whatever. And it advocates for a lot of things that seem quite immoral. So it seems like many of the people who have more conservative ideas are given justification from reading from the Bible to justify their actions in a way, or justify their behavior that they find beneficial. And in progressive Christianity, like the accepting of gay and LGBTQ people seems to be something that is in contradiction with a lot of the Bible's take on homosexuality. So how do you justify taking those actions as not things we should necessarily listen to today?
Well, I think some of it is in understanding how much the English translation or translations of scripture have lost a lot in translation. And this is where you run into a lot of the difference between people who are intense fundamentalists, who are taking like word for word, literal interpretation of everything that has to be written, of everything that's written in scripture. Not every Christian necessarily takes a literal interpretation of every single word in scripture. There are some people like me who acknowledge that, like, some people are real irate about like the King James Bible being this is the version of the, all that sort of stuff. Completely ignoring the fact that it is a English translation of a Latin translation, and in other situations, other languages of the day, translation of a Greek and Hebrew text that were manuscripted and translated multiple times over, for centuries before it got to them to be put in. So if you talk to any linguist and you try and understand and break down how difficult it is just to translate English into another language or another language into English, like there's genuine barriers that exist in trying to convey the right message and information. So I don't think taking a literal interpretation of every word of scripture is required in order to be a Christian or following Jesus. So if you want to say that's how I get around that, that's part of it. It goes a lot deeper than that, though. The LGBTQ stuff and all of that. I am extremely grateful to Rick, the guy I had on my show, because he actually was able to bring to my attention, and I left a bunch of links and stuff in that episode too, if anyone wants to go check it out and see what he had to say about it. But some really great resources of people who are in that community, and they are Christians and they love Jesus and they reconcile it very well. And I understand why some people are really, really bothered and upset and offended by that, because I used to be one of those people. But there's no doubt in my mind that the guy is Christian and loves Jesus, and he's a brother in Christ. Like, I have no doubt about that in my mind whatsoever, and love him to pieces. So, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question very well, but I did.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
So the way I see Christianity has progressed, I think that it seems like when Christianity originated, the further back in time you go, the more conservative, more extreme people used to be, like, crusades, witch hunts, etc.
Oh,
it seems like I think I believe in objective morality, so I think there's this moral progress has occurred, and further in time you go forward, the more resources and technology we have, the more compassionate we become as a species. So I see transitions of like progressive Christianity to be an example of human progress, of trying to become a more moral species as a whole. But at the same time, I think that in the Bible, I believe that the more conservative interpretation probably would be closer in line what the original Christians believed than what progressive Christians believe. I think that because
You think so though? You look at like the life of Jesus, especially in the Gospels, like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on the interpretation and how, to what extent. Like, there's some pretty insane and extreme literalist interpretation as Christians, extreme conservative Christians out there, right? So, how extreme are you going when you say that? That's my question. Because you can get pretty extreme. I mean, are we talking like, the whatever the hell those people were, the
Bethlehem Baptists.
those godhatesfags.com or org or whatever the hell that bullshit website is, like all those people, right?
Yeah, I think
are we talking that?
Well, I think that they're moderate compared to Christians previous to them. So I think that if we go back 100 years before them, when we had the witch hunts, and 100 years, or like 50 years ago, even 50 years ago, when being gay was punishable in court in the UK and in America. So that was like, the Bethlehem Baptist today is kind of like what the standard was 50 or 70 years ago. And then 100 years before that, it was an even worse standard where you had witch hunts and killing people because they blasphemed God, throw them in prison because they said the world was round or evolution or whatever. And then several hundred years before that, you had even worse things. So it seems like I think that if we are trying to like infer what original Christians thought, it would probably be like the standard of the Jews at the time period, and they could have been more intolerant towards a lot of things compared to where we are today. And so I think that it's reasonable to believe that they had a much more conservative mindset. Like obviously good examples like Jesus, there were definitely individuals among the group who were not that conservative. But I think that in general, most of the Christians and Jews at the time were probably a lot less tolerant towards the things that progressive Christians are today. I would say that it's likely
I
that
would agree with that.
Yeah. And so for me, it seems like that's a justification for the conservatives to be like, oh, well, no, this is how the Christians at the time really would have accepted it. Now, I would say they were wrong. I think you're right. The Christians did think that, but they were just morally wrong. They should not have thought that. That would be my
and I would say if the and I'm saying this is going to sound very progressive, which I'm assuming you're probably cool with, and your audience might be. But I always found it odd when Christians would look at the very first incarnation of the church as like the standard for everybody to try and reach. I'm like, I mean, if you're going to just go straight scripture and words of Jesus, right? Like he said, you are going to do greater things than me. You're going to do better things than what I did. Like everything that I've done myself. Yeah, you're going to be able to be empowered to take this message and do that yourself, but it's going to go beyond me, and you're going to be able to do better than that. That makes me think, okay, the early church was the start of something that will be improving and getting better and more impactful over time. Like that's the way I've always like that portion of scripture. Now, some people, I grew up in a very like charismatic, like real like charismatic kind of church community, and they always look at it as like Jesus rose from the dead. We're going to be able to do that, and we're going to, like greater things than me. Like that was their interpretation of it. And then the more I looked at it and the more I studied it myself, I'm like, that's just kind of bullshit. Like he's talking about collectively his church is going to be able to do more than just the one person walking around by himself. And the more Christians that I got connected with who were not part of that, let's just say, extremely cultish community that I was a part of, the more I realized that was actually the more more common interpretation of that portion of scripture for a lot of Christians. So, um, yeah, I mean, I, I think you're right. I think the church can improve, should be improving, and has been improving. And yeah, I don't think we get it right all the time. I really don't. Not
But do you,
every portion of scripture is like, hey, here's an example of what's the best way to do things. Sometimes it's here's an example of the shittiest way to possibly do something, you
yeah,
know.
the whole not wash your hands thing, Jesus said, I'm not a fan.
Right. There you go. There you go.
Well, so
And there are
do you
even
think
some
that
things
the
where
LGBT
Jesus
thing is
comes.
going to be, one sec, do you think the LGBT
Oh,
thing
go
is
ahead.
going to be kind of like not eating shellfish or not crossing your linens in the future? That's going to be taken more of like,
Um, I mean, give it a few hundred years, maybe, but I think I think it'll go more in the direction of like interracial marriage. People were pissed about that for a long time. Divorce, people were insanely pissed about that for generations, right? Um, and because scripture is something that is open to interpretation, um, some interpretations last and some don't. Um, and I would hope that even for my atheist friends out there, that are opposed to the message of Christianity in general, that you would hope that Christianity could at least progress to a point where the the best interpretations are the ones that last, the ones that are best for our
society,
common
people.
community and society together, right? Those are the ones hopefully that will last. And that's part of the reason why you see so much conflict within Christianity right now too. Um, the amount of times I've been called a fucking heretic, you know, um, I'd be extremely wealthy right now if I had to charge everybody, $50 for every time that I heard that. Um, but
The old no true Scotsman.
right, that's exactly right. The no true Scot, you're not a real Christian, and it's hilarious too. Like especially in like the LGBT conversation, you know, um, to have a conversation with another Christian who says there's no way someone can embrace being a homosexual and still be a Christian. And they'll say that sitting down with me, having, you know, a Jack and Coke in one hand and a cigar in the other. And I'm like, you do realize that there are other Christians out there who would see what you're doing right now and say, there's no fucking way you're a real Christian because you're embracing that sinful behavior.
Yep.
Like, who's the real Christian right now? If there's nothing Christians love to do more than judge one another on who's really in and who's really out. Um, and I'm just so sick of it and so tired of it and tired of watching it and not having it be confronted by other Christians because it's so unbiblical. Like that's the thing that it bothers me the most is it is extremely unbiblical. This idea that it's our job to determine who's in and who's out. What Bible are you reading? Like that's nowhere in there is it your job to determine that. That's not your job. So get off your high horse. Realize that it's not a competition. We're all a little crazy, and you're no better than me. So let's have an honest conversation about our difficulties and our challenges, and try and show each other a little grace in the process. So um, yeah.
Yeah. Just thanks to you to Frank for the super chat. Really appreciate it. And thank you to Atheist Velociraptor. He had a question for you. Why would
Yeah.
God allow his most important message to be so reliant on correct translation and interpretation? Why wouldn't God just directly explain it to us directly for less confusion?
I don't know that that his message was dependent on direct translation of a specific language. I think when he said the greatest command, we was asked what the greatest commandment is, and his answer was love God and love your neighbor as yourself. And then he said they were like, okay, well, who's my neighbor? And his answer to that was the Great Samaritan story or the Good Samaritan story. And the Samaritans were like their worst enemies. Like there is no Good Samaritan. What the hell is that, right? Like nowadays, and I said this on I mentioned this to David C. Smalley. I was on his show about a week ago. I was like, if that story was told today, it'd be like the good atheist or the good, lesbian or the good, fill in the blank, right? I don't know that it's necessarily a specific language that is dependent on getting the message across. I think it's something that's supposed to be transcending languages because it's expressing, I mean, again, my belief here, it's expressing the love and grace that should be present in all of our lives and extended one to another because it's an expression of the love that God has for us. So I don't know that I necessarily have to speak the same language to every individual in order to get that message across, or even use words. I think oh shoot, who was it? I'm blanking on who said it, and it's super famous.
What's the quote? Tell me the quote. I might know his name.
Preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words.
Don't know it.
You don't know that one? Dang it! Who is that? Francis of Assisi? Is that right? I feel like I gotta look it up. But that's a philosophy and a phrase that is embraced by a lot of Christians. Like, preach the gospel at all times. Yes, you're supposed to go into all the world and preach the gospel, right? Quote unquote. You don't have to do that with words, and oftentimes words can end up getting in the way of that whole process. So,
kind of like the quote that judge something by its actions, or judge a tree by its fruit, or whatever.
Oh, you judge a tree by its fruit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The amount of times Christians use that entire verse as a way to cast judgment on other people, like, you judge them by their fruit. You judge them by their fruit. I don't see any fruit coming out of you that glorifies the kingdom of God, right?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, time out here for a second. What is that fruit? What is the only fruit really being mentioned in Scripture anywhere that we're?
Oh, it's money. What's it called? Prosperity gospel.
But yeah, the total. Yeah. Throw that seed faith out there. I'm not doing nothing until you pay up, right? No, the actual fruit that Scripture is actually talking about is the fruits of the Spirit, which are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, goodness, and self-control. Any of the Christians that you're talking with, Tom, any of the debates that you're in the midst of, if they start getting in any way off base and not showing love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, goodness, fucking self-control, right? Like,
oh God, I'm just picturing Darth Dawkins' face right now.
I'm telling you, brother, I'm saying it right now. Like, the fruit that you are supposed to be judging Christians by, and this is something a lot of Christians should be open to yourselves. I give as a Christian, full authority to you and anyone else watching. If you ever see a Christian that is throwing around the idea of fruit, and I need to see fruit, or they're not, blah, 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 the fruit that you're supposed to be seeing from someone who is claiming to be a Christian is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, meekness, goodness, and self-control. That's it. If none of that is present, then they're really they're thrown into question whether or not they're really genuinely following God at all, and whether his presence is even remotely anywhere near what they're trying to do or say. So, in the end of that verse, here's the funny thing. The end of that portion of Scripture, when he says that, it says, against such things, there is no law. There is no law against any of these things. There's no law against loving people too much. There's no law against having too much joy or peace or patience or being too kind to people, right? Or having too much self-control. Like, there's no law against any of that. So if there's Christians out there that are not rolling in that sort of way of living, like, you can't go wrong by leaning towards love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, all that stuff. If you got a choice and you're not sure what is the right response, you can't go wrong by heading towards that direction. So, yeah. So that sort of conversation right there, that sort of thing, I usually end up making a lot of Christians mad because they don't embrace being reminded about that sort of stuff. But I do, and I do struggle with it myself, though, Tom. I do.
Yeah, it's the statement that Jesus was a hippie communist, and compared that to like
right,
the most like
dude,
Republicans today, it's like exactly the opposite.
Evangelical, conservative, fundamentalist Christians in America would hate Jesus. There's no doubt in my mind they would hate the dude. They would absolutely call him the biggest like hippie demonic communist in league with the devil, like all that crazy stuff, because he dares to say love your neighbor. Oh, there's that whole peace and love hippie bullshit. No, come on. Come on. Like, what? Come on. Read your fucking Bible, like for real. Like
it's like the sell all your belongings, pick up your cross, and follow me. They're like, sell all my belongings. Like what?
No. Socialist asshole. What's wrong with you? You just want me to get rid of all my stuff. This is America. We take pride in our, whatever.
I also have an interesting question to you. For like, one of the things I've thought about is that for progressive Christians, I've always wondered, did they see it was strange that the atheists are the ones who are always more accepting of the LGBTQ and all these movements far sooner than the Christians? It seems like Christianity itself is a contributing factor to prevent people from accepting these kinds of movements. And doesn't that cause like a strange cognitive dissonance? Why is the word of God the thing that seems to inspire people to be less accepting than those who turn away from God?
That is such a good question, dude. That's an awesome question. I love that. Honestly, I mean, at least my experience, my reflecting on that sort of just crazy dynamic, I think a lot of it, at least here in the United States, and I can't speak to this historically because I'm not as much of a historian, but here in the United States, I think a lot of that is a result of the very unhealthy marriage between religion and politics here in the United States within the church. I think there's a very, very, very intense pursuit of political power to allow their own ideology to be the only voice that really matters, and like just sort of take over. I mean, you saw it January 6th, right? That was a Christian insurrection. Like, David C. Smalley disagreed with me on that. He's like, it played a part. I'm like, no, dude, come on. Get with the program. That was a Christian nationalist insurrection. Like, and the politics is a huge part of it. It's a huge part of it. And oftentimes that power, like if you are in any position of holding power and influence, especially in a democracy like we live in a democratic republic, technically, right? That kind of power does not get let go of easily. And because of that idolatrous attitude, and they cling to that and that influence, they want to hang on to that as much as possible, and they don't want to share it. And that, I mean, it's temptation. It's that carnal, just human nature that we have, and utilizing that political power to hang on to it. And so as a result, it becomes easier to set up barriers and say, you're out, I'm in, and it's very self-justifying. Yeah, because when you're following someone that's saying, hey, give up literally everything you have and come follow me, right? You find ways to excuse that so you don't have to give up everything, right?
Yep.
Like that's how that is. So I don't know, dude. Like, it's a really, really messy dynamic. And I do think you're right. I think there's aspects of the progressive nature of it. Like, progressive means to have progress, right? There's that nature, that progressive nature to it. Conservative flies in the face of that entire ideology, right? I mean, we know this. Like, conservative, you're trying to conserve things as much as you possibly can. conservative usually. This is why when you look at our parties right now, the progressive is made up of, demographically wise, majority of people who have been marginalized and not had much say, not had much political power. And they're trying to progressively make that more equitable and equal across the board. Whereas the people who are more conservative are the people who want to conserve all that power that they've had for forever and keep policies in place that don't change it too much because it's been pretty sweet for them. Hence the reason why Make America Great Again is a slogan that connected real well with the, white, cis, male audience and their families, right? Didn't really connect very much with the LGBTQ plus community. Didn't connect much with any of the, racial minorities in the United States because they're looking back going, no, fuck was it great for us ever? Make it a great again? Yep. At what point can you go back and say, yeah, let's go back to that, So yeah, that whole political ideology was just racist in the first place. And I'm baffled that people still try and argue with me on that point, but I'm like, whatever. Okay. That was a total ADD rambling there, Tom. I feel like I kind of answered your question, and then I kind of went on a rabbit trail too, and just kind of went.
Got some more super chats. Thank you, Frank, for the super chat. Is belief in Jesus as important as belief in his teachings?
I mean, I'd say yes to both if you want to be a Christian. If that's the goal. I mean, if the goal is to be a Christian, then yeah, you got to believe in Jesus if you're going to be a Christian. That's really kind of like the only actual thing that is determining whether someone is or isn't a Christian is like, what do you think of Jesus? Like, that's really it. And here's another fun point that I like to bring out to a lot of Christians, and they like to get mad at me. There's only one person in the history of the world that was ever qualified to make a ruling on whether or not what you believe about Jesus is enough to qualify you, quote unquote, to be a Christian or not. And that is like God himself. If you're a Christian, then that's the only one who's able to cast that kind of judgment, if you want to call it that.
Well, do you think that people who live a Jesus-ly life and value the way Jesus lived, even if they don't believe in Jesus as a God necessarily, that they would still technically or maybe indirectly qualify as a Christian? Would they be allowed into heaven, kind of a thing? Is it more important?
That's totally, that's again where it's like, I'm glad I'm not the one making that kind of call. Like that's not on me to call. That's not my call. And a lot of people, Christians and atheists, like to go, that's a cop-out. What are you doing? That's a cop-out. You're not even answering the question. And then I'm going, no, you're kind of trying to shove me into a corner of casting judgment on people, and I don't know them. Why? That's an unfair. Why would you do that? That's kind of a douchey thing to do. Why would you do that? As if as a Christian, I'm jumping at the opportunity to like cast eternal judgment on everybody. I don't know. That's not my job. And that's not between my eternity is between me and God. And as is the case with every other individual. So, but my love and my understanding and my passion and everything that I've read and understood is that it comes down to whether you know and follow and believe in and trust in Jesus or not. Where do people fall if they've never even heard of Jesus and then they die? Where do children fall and into that whole thing if they're not even speaking? All of those like insanely difficult questions. I'm like, I lean on the character of God being someone who is all about extending grace to people as much as possible. Like that's what I see in the character of God as demonstrated by Jesus. So that's where I lean. But again, I don't know. I can't make a call officially one way or the other on that. And I'm okay sitting in that not knowing.
We got another super chat. Thank you for Doc Palermo Not. How do you explain the earliest Mark variant when Jesus was actually a annoyed to cure the man with leprosy?
No, I don't know. I'm familiar with that, but I mean, I'd be happy to look at it. I guess I'm not familiar with that. If you want to throw out like a resource or something and put it out there, I'd be happy to look at it. To be honest with you, I mean that sounds really interesting. Um, but yeah, I'd never heard of that. So
And we got one
always open to
from,
learning new things. So yeah, yeah,
yeah,
throw it at me.
I'm not familiar with that either. I don't study enough of the original text. Got another one from Trude Hall. Could you ask him why he thinks the Ten Commandments focus on what not to do, and if Jesus's teachings could be seen as a kind of paradigm?
Um, yeah, without getting like too nitty gritty into like the theology sort of intensity of it. The Ten Commandments basically was the law, right? And the law from the perspective of Christians and Judaism to some degree too is there essentially to provide an understanding of what a standard of morality is according to God, like what's right, what's wrong. And from the Christian perspective, it's to essentially present the reality that none of us are perfect. Um, and if none of us are perfect, then then we're all basically in the same boat of kind of just being screwed in the inability to save ourselves, right? Like all this Christian, like I'm sure Tom, you're familiar, you've heard all this stuff, right? Like I'm not saying anything new. Um, so that's where that kind of comes from. And so when you say paradigm shift, I feel like, I mean, I don't know if this is what they mean, but I would definitely agree with the idea that it definitely is a paradigm shift to some degree. Um, this notion that Jesus coming and dying and dying for everybody, I see that as an expression, an ultimate expression of love, and saying every single person, even when they're at their absolute worst, still has value and is worth dying for. Like that's, for me, is something that helps me a lot in trying to keep me in the right frame of mind when I'm dealing with the most douchebaggy Christians or the most, angry of atheists, or whatever you want to call it. Like everybody's life has value and is Jesus said that person's worth dying for. So if they're worth dying for, then for crying out loud, I can shut my mouth and listen to what they have to say for like 5-10 minutes without being an asshole, right? Like, come on, that's a paradigm shift, I guess, for a lot of people. At least it should be. Um, if that clicks for somebody and you realize, holy shit, yeah, they're worth dying for. Why am I treating them like they're a piece of shit? They're human just like me. And I know I'm not perfect and I have my reasons for thinking and believing and doing the things I do. And I don't always do it right. So, um, why can't I show them a little grace too and try and give them the benefit of the doubt, like that kind of, that is a paradigm shift, I guess. That's a good way to put that. So,
Do you think you would be disappointed in God if you got to heaven and he didn't accept like really kind, loving people into heaven, even if they chose to turn away from Jesus, but they were still good people?
um, well, here's the thing. I would say, I don't know, disappointed is the right word. I mean, the way that I look at that kind of paradigm, Tom, is more like, I mean, a lot of people like to throw out the accusation of, God's sending people to hell and he's just sending people to, and I look at it more kind of on the other side of the coin. And I maybe personalize it a little bit and I'm just like, okay, I know myself well enough. Like, who the fuck do I think I am to make me worthy of heaven for all of eternity? Like, I mean, I'm not the worst guy on the planet, but I mean, if we're talking
Donald Trump.
perfection for all of eternity, right? Yeah, right. It's the worst. If we're talking about perfection and spending, if this is what people believe, being in the presence of a perfect, holy God for forever, like, I mean, as great as I may be in my best moments, I mean, on the whole, I don't know that I'm worthy of that kind of thing on my own. Um, so it can get real tough sometimes, I think, for some people, and even within Christianity, when people start doing this weighing of like how many good deeds or how many bad deeds or all of this sort of stuff. Which is why, again, for me, it always comes back down to Jesus basically saying, "Hey, none of us are going to be like none of us will be perfect, and as a result, I mean, is there any of us that can really genuinely deep down say that we're worthy of heaven on our own? I don't know that I can, but the reason why Jesus died is because he's going that no, you are worthy of heaven, and I'm going to make sure that it's so, and you're worth dying for. Like that's kind of the way that I approach that conversation. It's maybe a little different, um, but yeah, that's how I choose to look at that dynamic. I don't know if that answered the question well enough for them or not, but
Yeah, for sure. Like
hopefully.
that's that problem of evil, problem of suffering kind of problem is one of the ones that is the hardest for me to accept God, because I like, even if I knew for a fact God existed or whatever, the fact that if I take the Bible literally, the fact that he drowned millions of babies in the global flood or turned a woman to salt, those seem very problematic to me. And even if we took those as more allegorical, the fact that hell itself exists as kind of something that people are forced to go into if they don't agree, and you're only allowed to go into heaven if you do agree, that seems to be a much more immoral way to do things than essentially just giving people the option. Like, you can come and go as you please. The door's open. If you want, come, and you can go when you want, whatever. That seems like a much more moral way to do things than forcing people in or out based on some decision in a very small period of time. So like giving them for, like you said, for forever, an infinite amount of time in heaven.
Yeah.
For a decision you made for like 100 years on Earth, that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. I mean, you could just be like, I'll open the doors whenever you come, just knock, come in, whatever. It seems like a much more plausible thing to do, a moral thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, another side of this too that makes me a bit more of an odd bird, I guess, amongst Christians, is my understanding of eternity, my understanding of God being all knowing and all powerful, is not the traditional fundamentalist approach. I don't know if you're familiar with being the phrase open theist. Have you?
Yep, Greg Boyd. Greg Boyd is one of the first guys.
Yeah, there you go.
He lives in Minnesota. He was one of the first guys I talked to.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a smart guy. He knows his stuff. Like that's definitely I definitely fall more in that vein of like, I mean, eternity being written. Like things have to go only one very, very narrow, specific way. That's already been preordained, and like all of that very, very intense fundamentalist kind of style approach to Christian. I just don't see that in scripture either. I really don't. And the idea that God is able to change his mind, that his character, like, would you say that you have a perfectly moral character if you're a total hard ass and not able to change your mind? Yes, you do. Absolutely, Tom.
Me, I do. I don't know about God, but
without a doubt, there's no question there. I mean, I knew that, but for anyone to have perfect moral character would mean that they have the ability to change their mind, right? To respond to a situation that requires a change, So a lot of these like intense fundamentalists that are like, God doesn't change his mind. I'm like, no, you all need to go back and read through scripture, because God changes his mind a whole hell of a lot. And there are times when people do things, say things, decide things that surprise God, like genuinely surprise God. And God is either really happy or he's extremely frustrated and angry, or I'm like, if God knows all of that, then what the hell, how is he getting surprised? Come on now. Like, if he's all powerful, then the entire existence of everything in the world the way that it is today, including the most evil and atrocious things on the planet, are entirely on him, right? I'm sorry, but no. That, like, God doesn't get everything that he wants. He doesn't. And I don't see proof of him getting everything that he wants all the time in scripture either. So a lot of Christians right now, if anyone's watching, are going, this guy's not a Christian. There's no way. This guy's a heretic. I love Greg Boyd. I'm excited to hear you drop his name, because he's an awesome guy that I've learned a lot from him, and a lot of my faith and understanding of scripture has grown and matured a lot because of a lot of his teachings and his books, and all. I've consumed a lot of his content. So,
yep, I think that was like the one of the first theist books that I actually like met the authors. It was him and Paul Eddies. I went out to coffee with them.
Which one was it?
Jesus Legend.
Okay.
That was I'm pretty sure that book. I got it signed. I got a signed copy from him. Went to coffee with him and was talking about it. And that was a little bit before I started my YouTube channel. So I think that my conversation with them was one of the ones that inspired me to start my YouTube channel.
There you go. That's awesome. I would love to talk to Greg Boyd. Like, give me like 15 minutes. I'd love to chat with him. I would swear to God, I would like pass over dead if he were to ever come on my show. That would be amazing.
You just fanboy out, just be like, oh my God, oh my God.
I probably would. I'd probably just stand there and like stare in the camera. I can't believe that the guy's looking at me right now. No, he's a great guy. And he's a pretty humble guy too. Like, just one of the kindest guys you'll meet. And I say that as if I've met him. I haven't yet, so that's probably speaking out of turn. But yeah, I love him to pieces. Letters from a Skeptic was one of the first books of his that I read, and that was actually really good. And then he started diving into some more controversial stuff, like Myth of a Christian Nation, which was, that was awesome. Great book. Highly encourage you to read it if you haven't. If you have anybody in your life that is of the idea and mindset that America is a Christian nation, read Greg Boyd's Myth of a Christian Nation. Whether you're a believer or not, there's some great stuff in there to have a more educated conversation with those individuals. So
what do you think about churches in general? Because I want to start an atheist church. That's one of my goals. Is I want to start an atheist church and have
atheist church.
Yep, 100% atheist church. And
how
I want to have
does that work?
Well, I'm curious. I believe in objective morality, so I'm going to found this church on the ideals of objective morality. And what I think the perfect heaven, perfect world would be is one where it's impossible to force anyone to do anything they don't consent to doing. That would be the perfect world. That's what I think would be perfect. And I think that if we use that as a foundation for the church, we should try to make the world as close as possible to that perfect world that we can. And the way I would do that would be like trying to get an apartment building and then lowering the rent prices as much as possible. Because if it's a church, tax exempt, don't have to pay taxes, I can lower everybody's rent. It'd be great. And so that would be the idea behind my church, is that we can use the funds, instead of just building big cathedrals to hold concerts in, we should actually do something to help the community, to help people in their lives by lowering their cost of living, by replacing companies that are absolute garbage like payday loans or whatever with something that does things without the corruption involved. That's what I think churches should be. That's why the reason I call it an atheist church. A lot of my atheist fans just hate it. They're like, church is terrible. Why would you ever call it a church? Religion is awful. I'm like, no. But I'm like, no, I want to take this idea of church and turn it into what it should be. I want to say we have a religion. Yes, atheism is a religion. Yes, we do have churches, and it's better than yours. We actually do something good for the community.
Okay. So there's a lot there to unpack. There's a lot to unpack. I can see why you would be agitating some people out there. I I'm curious as to how you expect to achieve this sort of this objectively moral society within I mean, I guess any of humanity to achieve that level of, I mean, I guess nirvana, if you want to use that word, um, like within itself. That's really, really, really optimistic view of humanity, dude.
Well, yeah, I
I
think
mean,
I think it's where we're
I
going
mean,
actually. Because like if we look at technological progress, as we build enough technology, like I think the closest thing that's easiest to imagine to this utopia would be like the Matrix. We can give people the option to upload their consciousness to the Matrix, which point you don't have a body, no aging, no death. You can just summon, I want a Coke, psh, milkshake, whatever. Do full Star Trek universe. Like I think we're moving towards that, and I think that we should have that ambition in mind. I think it's a good ambition that the goal of humanity should be to create this best of all possible worlds where it is impossible to force anyone to do anything they don't consent to doing. That is a perfectly moral world. And if we can see that as the goal and work towards it, I think that would be the best way for humanity to progress.
How do you achieve that without having, I mean, I think you're not, I don't know that can possibly be achieved by humanity within itself. I really don't, dude.
What do you mean?
Like, human nature is constantly in conflict with one another. You know, like I mean, look at like Darwinian evolution, right? Survival of the fittest. Like that's the world that we're in, right? And so without even, like, you talk about like conflicts over all kinds of shit on the planet, right? Resources galore, right? And man is constantly in conflict over resources with one another. How do you get over the self-preservation and selfish nature of humanity that we all have baked in?
Artificial intelligence?
How do you get over that?
AI, artificial intelligence.
So now it's not people; it's just straight up robots that are part of this church. Or what is that? Is that what we're?
No. So like I would say,
I don't know what you mean. What do you mean by artificial intelligence?
Well, once you get artificial intelligence, it's going to be a lot smarter than people are, and it's essentially going to run the government. It's going to be the government. It's going to be doing all the scientific discoveries. It's going to be doing all the technology. It's going to be the thing. Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate the super chat. And so once we have artificial intelligence, people are going to essentially become pandas. Just to make a ironic reference to the People and Pandas book from creationists. Right. We will become pandas, and AI is going to do all of the resources, provide all of our food, and we'll just be able to live and enjoy and do things we like.
Okay, but Tom, who is going to be programming the AI to be able to do all of that?
The AI is. So the AI is going to be self-programming. It's going to be a lot smarter than we are.
The AI has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And that value that you are trying to adhere to for the betterment of all of humanity, where is that going to come from initially for the AI to know that is how things are supposed to be and what the goal actually is? Where does it get that from?
Well, two things. One would be is I think one of the reasons I wrote this objective morality was as a thing we could program into artificial intelligence and say, here is the model we should achieve for. And I think that's correct. I think if we could program a morality into computers, this would probably be the correct one. Like, do least involuntary imposition of will. Don't force people to do things they don't consent to as much as possible. That should be the goal. But I think another way, because I believe this is an objective system, I think they'd be able to discover that on their own by, if they got smart enough to understand the interactions of the world, I think they would be able to figure that one out on their own. I think they will. Like, one of my hypotheses about objective morality is that if we discovered life on other planets, we would see that they would have a very similar understanding of morality. And as we increased in technological advancement in different planets or whatever, they're also going to understand this. So I think in two ways. One is where we would hopefully program this into the AI, and two is they'd probably discover it on their own given enough time.
How many people have you explained this to and they said that's ridiculous, or that's crazy, or that's never going to happen, or you're off your rock? Like, I'm just curious, how many people have
disproportionately number of Christians, but not as many atheists. Atheists are like,
yeah,
oh, that makes sense. And people who work with AI, they're like, if we could actually learn how to program things in the AI, that's a great idea.
Yeah. Here's the difficulty that I have with that. It's putting way too much. I don't see any of that fitting into what is reflected within the character of the core of human nature. I just don't. And if you're going to really rely on AI to be the one who's eventually reaching a certain point of holding that line for all of humanity, even that AI is still programmed by some person or persons who wrote the code, wrote it a certain way, and acknowledged that this is the way that things are supposed to be, which in and of itself is enforcing something upon other individuals, isn't it? Like, if you're going to say, hey, we're going to implement this artificial intelligence to be able to support and dictate essentially that this is the ideal way for all of humanity to live, that in and of itself is like forcing an ideal upon people, though. So
not sure what you mean there. So like, the AI would have like the desire to give people as much freedom to not do things they don't consent to, but a person can like say, I don't like your system, I don't consent to it. Like that's fine, they can do that. That's their prerogative, but I don't think that would be. I don't see how
there's enough humanity who would want to consent to that kind of a thing, to where it would essentially take over the whole planet? Or is it like, hey, if people don't want to be a part of this, they don't have to be, in which case, if it's just, half a dozen people out in the middle of nowhere with their robots, so be it.
Well,
I'm just like, I'm curious how big the vision is here.
Well, partially both. So definitely it would be like a voluntary thing. If you want to live under the system, it's optional. You can just go be in the city of the robots or whatever. But I think that regardless, AIs are still going to take over economically. They're still going to run the economy. They're still going to run science. They're just going to do everything better. And so most of the world is going to be run by AIs at that point anyway. That's not completely independent of my model of morality. AIs will take over. And the question is what should we do about it? And
dun, 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 dun.
Yep. What's it? Terminator.
Sorry, you can't not throw a Terminator reference in there in this conversation. We went on pretty long conversation without having it pop up until now.
It will be named Skynet. It has to be. It's written in the law. It must be named Skynet.
The nerdy gaming computer that I built in a sleeper PC tower, I have a Skynet sticker right on the front of it, and it has a sticker on it that looks like a Y2K Best Buy sticker, but instead of Y2K, it's like 2040, whatever. Make sure you shut your computer off before the end of the world, kind of a thing. So
Yep.
I get it, dude. That's funny.
But yeah,
interesting. I connect with the goal of what you're trying to achieve there. I don't want to squash the overall vision of that, because I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think, though, that social Darwinism was basically a bunch of bullshit, but the one thing I think that it demonstrated or shed light on pretty clearly is that mankind left to its own devices is never going to get along completely. It's just not going to happen. Let's remove the conflict of resources entirely, right? And to say, hey, we've got enough shit for everybody. Nobody has to worry about that, right? There's still other areas of conflict that people are willing to fight and die and oppress one another over, just around how we're going to govern ourselves, right? Or what resources are most important for which groups of people, or
dictators who want to control other people.
Right. Like there's aspects of the just the what do I want to say? Like
Fundamental nature of humans to want to
right.
have control
The
over others.
having control, having to fight to survive and do what's best for you. Like there's just this selfish nature that is constantly in conflict with other aspects of other people's human nature, and I don't see how you can get around that without having some sort of other objective outside force that unites everybody. I think you want that to be artificial intelligence that is leading everybody into this kind of utopia. I see the same goal being achieved by everyone recognizing that Jesus made that statement abundantly clear about everybody on the planet like thousands of years ago. So, robots or Jesus, I
Robots
think we
win.
can. I think we can find some common ground here on the overall goal. Maybe just not quite how we get there. But
Terminator versus Jesus. Terminator number
versus
27.
Did you ever see that cracks.com or no, not crack.com, Mad TV? That Mad TV episode of the Terminator being sent back in time to save Jesus from Judas?
No, I didn't see that.
You've never seen that? Oh my God. Dude, I am so shocked that you haven't seen that. I am going to have to send it to you. It is the funniest thing
Do it.
ever.
That was great.
It's so funny. He comes in and he's like blowing away Judas, and Jesus has to keep trying to heal him. He's supposed to betray me. I'm supposed to save you. It's so funny. So funny.
Doc Plermona, thank you for the super chat. Question for you. He says, explain the passage. God shall send them strong delusions that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned. 2 Thessalonians 2:11-12. Question mark. An argument against your loose New Testament interpretation.
I guess I'd have to look it up. I'm assuming he's talking about predestination.
I think it's like it seems like he's asking, there are people who will misinterpret, like the false prophets kind of a thing. God shall send them strong delusions, and he's saying, I think he's arguing, could that be the progressive Christians? Could they be the ones the Bible could potentially be talking about, and could this be used as an argument against taking looser, non-conservative interpretations of the New Testament to be these false prophets?
Yeah, or the and the other way would be just as you could make the same argument the other way too. Be like, no, the intense literal interpretation of it is you're already losing and falling in with the false prophet component to it, because you're taking a literal interpretation of something that has been translated language through language through language to then now getting to you. So how do you know that that's the correct interpretation on it? So the other side, the way that I was thinking about the question though was it kind of comes down to the difference in my understanding of the openness of God versus people being essentially predestined to believe something, and they're not going to change their mind, and God made that happen, as opposed to God allowing us to choose freely and engage in life on our own, with God. So, and the whole, my understanding of God being all powerful and all of that. Other people have different interpretations of those portions of scripture. I mean, how do I combat that? I mean, the easy cop-out answer is to go, yeah, that's a bullshit, interpretation. You're taking that out of context, all that sort of stuff. I do think though that my position on a lot of that stuff leaves a lot more room for the reality of the world that we live in to be recognized and understood and reflected in scripture, as opposed to constantly being at war with science and the world that we see in front of us. I mean, not to go too far in depth on stuff, but like I've been through some terrible tragedies and all kinds of crazy shit in my own life. And of course, if there's any Christians out there that are like, they're saying, "Oh, I never have doubt." Yeah, bullshit. Yes, you do. Come on, stop lying to yourself. That sounds like you just sound like an arrogant asshole when you say that. Of course, you have doubt. Um, the very straight, narrow, hardline idea that everything that happens because it's God's will. Um, that's such bullshit. It really is.
So
And
Calvinists out there, just
oh, believe me, I know. Yeah, I hear from the Calvinists all the time. To which my answer is, and my response is, I'm sorry, but I don't see God reflecting that in Scripture. Like I really don't. You want to say God picks and chooses and has a predestined core of every finite aspect of humanity. I'm sorry, but that doesn't coincide with what we know to be a true moral being. Like I just don't. How can you say God's a moral being and reconcile the fact that he allows evil to happen? Either he's allowing it to happen or he's causing it to happen. Um, those are the only two options. If that's your understanding of God's sovereignty, um, and I no, there are things that happen in Scripture. There are things that happen in life. That isn't how God wanted it. I mean, that we see examples of that in Scripture. We see that in life. And the way that I reconcile that sort of situation is to say that God being all powerful means like all the power that was available in a certain moment, in a certain time, in every situation is available to him to be able to accomplish what needs to be done. But that doesn't mean that all powerful is interpreted, meaning magically anything and everything at the snap of a finger can just poof. I don't view all powerful being that. So if there's a situation where someone dies, like someone in my life passed away, they couldn't be healed or they couldn't, um, they couldn't. They couldn't be healed. God couldn't heal them. Why? I don't. The amount of variables in play on that, like why can someone get healed here and not there, or whatever. Again, that's why I'm not God, but I know the character of who God is based on the person of Jesus, and I see abundantly clear that if God was capable of doing something, he would have. And I know that and trust that. So, um, so the only answer after that is that he couldn't. And he couldn't. And it wasn't possible. And that's reality. Like that's a reflection of the reality that we live in. Sometimes things just aren't possible. And that's okay. I don't think that diminishes one bit the character of God and who he is, and it doesn't diminish the greatness of his ability to still work everything together for the betterment of everybody, as much as he's capable of. So that's a very non-fundamentalist, non-literal interpretation of Scripture. But again, that's not the kind of person I am. So.
Awesome. Well, we've been going for about an hour and a half.
Yeah. I probably should start wrapping it up here myself.
Yeah, for sure. So do you want to have give a shout out to your channel where people can find you, upcoming shows and stuff?
Easiest place to go is probably just DearChristians.org. That's my website. We've got a blog.
Is it the Dear Christian podcast or the Dear Christians podcast?
DearChristianPodcast.com or DearChristians.org. And you can also find, I just started a TikTok. I'm like one of the young hip kids now, which apparently makes me the really old guy now, because that's kind of once the old people get on, they've moved on to something else. I know how it is.
Yep.
Yeah, I got a TikTok, I got YouTube. I'm trying to get more people following me on YouTube. I don't have a whole lot on YouTube right now. Most of my show I started just like streaming episodes that were pre-recorded and broadcasting them audio-wise. So that's where most of my listenership and my audience is, following me on wherever you find podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, all that good stuff, Stitcher, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I mean, Facebook group, I'm all over the place. But yeah, feel free to join the conversations. I got a episode that I think I'm going to be releasing hopefully this weekend about why pastors are quitting. So
quick technical question for you. So how do you upload to podcasts? Like, because I've been trying to find a way to upload to podcasts and YouTube at the same time, and I've been unable to find a way to do that.
Are you able to extract the audio yet?
Yes, I can do that, but I'd have to do it individually for every video, and I'm like, oh,
that would be a pain in the ass. It would be a pain in the ass to do all of them. But once you got the library all there, it would just be a matter of one-offing them. Or you can do like greatest hits and throw them all out there. But I do, mine is through Anchor.fm. That's where I go. And I started there and then transitioned over to video later. So I kind of took an opposite approach of you. You kind of started with the video and the live stream chats and then transitioned over, and I'm like, we're kind of meeting in the middle here, it looks like. But Anchor.fm is where I go to do that. And as soon as I got that set up, and it started like pushing it and syncing it to all the other platforms that are out there. And as soon as I upload an episode there, it hits everything.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do they have a streaming option? Like, could I stream the audio to them and then have them uploaded?
That's a good question. They might, actually. They've got a few different like tiers of like membership and different stuff that's available, depending on kind of what your needs are. I haven't had a need to do that just yet. I mean, I don't do nearly as much content as you though either. I mean, my stuff, I'm putting out, 10 to 15 episodes a year kind of conversations. Like I'll put out 1 or 2 a month, maybe. So and then I'll be like having conversations about stuff on other people's channels, like in between all of that. So yeah, that's how I've been handling that. But Anchor.fm, it was super simple and real easy to get it set up. But yeah, if you had all the audio and you had to upload it all, that would be a pain in the ass.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'll definitely check them out. Because I'm looking for a way to do it automatically so I can just stream to like an audio source and then it'll do
it'll grab the audio automatically from what you're doing and then just drag it over. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely check them out.
That's a good call.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it. It was a great conversation.
Of course, man.
Having you on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me and inviting me, man. It was a real treat. I loved it.
Absolutely.
Really pleased to get asked. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm going to start the after show, so you can just close the screen whenever you're ready. I'm just going to pull up my Discord. So thanks again for coming on, and I'll talk to you later.
You bet. Have a good night.
All right, guys, after show time in the Discord. Join the Discord. Discord. After show time. After show time. After showtime. After show rhyme. That's correct. All right, Travis, where is the TJump's chair something? Scroll up.
TJump's chair is the new subreddit. TJump was taken, so I don't know if you made one or.
So I think somebody else made one for me. I don't know how to edit it or anything. I don't even know I don't know Reddit. I don't know how Reddit works.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want a rundown?
No.
No? I mean, it's just a forum website.
I want to do zero effort. I can add some comments occasionally, but I don't want to do efforts. Efforts is bad.
You can put, that's one way I think of it. The other way is like, it's a way to find tons of content, like other things to respond to, and then like you share things into different groups. And sometimes things can go viral. It's easy to share. Um, but yeah, like we don't need to use it for much. Like we would basically post like a upcoming YouTube link, and then like people could like discuss it on that in Reddit, and then like even they could like uh maybe talk about future questions, and then those would get upvoted.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting idea. I definitely like to build more of a platform on Reddit, because Reddit I think is a definitely an option for growing. But I don't know how Reddit works or anything, and so if you're willing to help and do this stuff, I'd love that for sure.
All right, I already made the basics. There's tons of stuff we can change, but yeah, generally, like those old forum websites where you make an account and then like it would be based on one topic. Here in Reddit, it's like everything is a subreddit. There's one for atheism and one for politics and one for all your favorite sports teams and music genres and all that stuff. So I've gotten in the habit of just making new subreddits whenever there's like a community in need. And then it starts small, but you can put content there, and like it's like a hub. It's just like a database basically on any topic you could think of.
Awesome. Are any of the other people in Discord? Frank, do you know anybody, Frank or Walker or Strong, do you know anybody in Discord who also does a lot of Reddit stuff? Like, would they know? Can you make mods for Reddit that can like go in and edit shit?
Yes. Yep. You can make mods. You can share mods.
So yeah, if we know anybody who,
not like,
what?
Yeah, there's like not a ton of stuff to do with mods, like, but eventually, like if you become a big subreddit, it's helpful. But like you can make wikis and you can edit like the menu links, and you can like if you have a ton of new content coming in, then you want to like moderate, make sure you don't have trolls and stuff posting. But everything is also pretty automatable because people can report stuff that breaks the rules, and it kind of gets hidden until a mod takes care of it.
So I might have been the one who actually created the TJump Reddit a long time ago. How do I find out?
Let's see. I will find.
So I'm logged into mine.
And it will. Oh yeah. Reddit notes. Is that your username?
No, my name is TJump_.
Okay. Well, so whoever made the TJump subreddit is named Reddit Notes.
Ah, got it.
And we would have to message him and say, hey, can we have like a YouTube channel that we want to, we just want to use your subreddit basically. Now, cool. If we go there, most people make subreddits and they never really, there's no post in it. So, oh look, it's TJump YouTube. So yeah, I guess he made it and then it never got used. So.
So what is Reddit Notes?
Well, I don't know. Someone named Elucidate.
Is that like it's a moderator?
Yeah, no, it's a guy named Reddit Notes. I don't know if I like recognize that name from chat.
I'll send him a message on Reddit, see if I can. Can I modify the TJump Reddit? And what would you suggest for like actually building Reddit, making things go viral? Because I don't know what would work there.
Yeah, so there's like generally there's a couple big atheism subreddits. Like our atheism has several million. Not all Reddits like allow cross posts, which basically like if you post a link to a Reddit, it has a unique URL. And if you post that unique URL in another Reddit, then it's like a cross post. It's like an internal thing. So they like automated that system. and it's easy to do now. So you could theoretically cross post, like say you want to interview Christians or something. You can make a post on the TJump subreddit and then cross post that to another subreddit, and then maybe they would approve it, and then you could get advertisement that way. But that's all kind of up in the air. It's up to the mods to allow it. It's spam. There's not always like clear solutions in this case, and all the mods end up just being people who have their own opinions too. So you have to kind of like treat everyone lightly. But
could you give
like,
that a shot? See if you could contact our atheism and see if
just
try to post something there maybe. If they allow it.
Yeah, we can try it. Or like a good way to do it is you post like a popular video you've had there, and then in the comments you write, "Hey, join the subreddit TJump," and then people click it and subscribe. And then like on the subreddit we post all the fresh videos, and then like say someone wants to argue you or you have an interview coming up, you can post their videos to prepare the audience. Basically it's kind of like a nicer way to keep track of your community, and everyone can comment and upvote, and it's all threaded comments, so you can keep track of everything really efficiently instead of like YouTube comments, which kind of suck, or Discord is it disappears kind of after a day or two.
Cool.
We could even make like a kind of like a request thing there too, like someone could post a thing like they request to have a debate with you or someone else.
Sure.
You could say, okay, this is a good topic, like I'll do this for free, or this will be $50 or whatever.
Free debates. That sounds like a terrible idea.
Well, maybe this idea is just so spellbindingly good, aka it's from Darth Dawkins.
That would work for sure.
You can burn the $50 there.
Is Darth Dawkins pretty popular on Reddit?
No, I like honestly a lot of like I'm on the Twitter burst, or a lot of the atheists on Twitter, but I don't feel like there's a good like transfer between Reddit and Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. Like they're all like they each make little sub communities, and everyone on YouTube knows everyone else in YouTube chat, but like no one knows about Reddit. And then this same kind of stuff happens in a bunch of different subreddits, but no one links back the names basically to YouTube chat, right? So like we might all be like discussing.
I was just thinking like what would be a good video to post on Reddit that would get a lot of attention from Reddit users. So almost maybe Darth Dawkins or somebody who that I have debated would be good to post a video of that's popular on Reddit. Malpass? Alex Malpass?
Oh yeah, you could also post like to the vegan subreddit, for instance.
Ask yourself. Yep. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, you also want to be careful how you go viral.
Yeah, let's start working on. Who else? Do we know anybody else in the Discord who does lots of Reddit stuff? Ask the mods at mods. Mod. Does anyone do a lot
How
of
about
Reddit?
Jonathan McClatchy?
Is he big on Reddit?
Well, no, but like this old video. Like another example we could do is we posted to the TJump subreddit, and then we cross-posted to the ex-Christian subreddit, and then like if Christians want to hear, or ex-Christians want to hear that debate, then that's like a good audience. Or if you like use street epistemology tactics, so you can post it there. I'm actually a bot of street epistemology, so
Nice.
I accept a lot. We haven't really had a ton of content since COVID hit, actually. Like,
Yeah, I
no
bet,
one's
because
really
street
like
epistemology
doing
is
the work.
in person kind of a thing.
Yeah, and it sucks doing it through mass and stuff. Like reading, they set up tables and it's really pretty impressive what they do, but it's still like slower than it was. So anyway, like, that's a good spot. But yeah, if we can get something viral on atheism, like I've never been able to figure out the formula for atheism.
Could you send me all of the r/thingies that you think would be good that are related to
Yeah, if you
my
check
channel?
the street epistemology one, I should have a lot on the side there.
How do I do that?
So there's these sidebars. Yeah, there's some good ones here. So if you open up street epistemology,
The Discord or our subreddit or
the subreddit, yeah.
Eric Waters, thank you for the super chat. Just downloaded Discord. I'm in timeout. Fix question mark. Can somebody get Eric Waters out of timeout, Frank? Oh shit. At Eric. What is your Discord name? Controversial topics would work there. Crash the parties. Oh, is that Nate? Nate says post controversial topics on that. Oh, I'm gonna message.
I mean, yeah, so you want to use the TJump subreddit, not the TJump chair? We can see.
I'd say we'll go with yours unless I can hear back from the other guy. If I hear back from the other guy, and we can set it up before you do anything like substantial. But let's just go with yours.
I already did the bare minimum. I copied in the description from YouTube, and yeah.
Hey Tom, I need his name.
Yeah, at Waters Eric. Waters Eric.
Waters Eric.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, I made the Pine Creek subreddit today too.
Nice.
He doesn't really understand Reddit either, so.
Hey Nate,
But,
how's it going?
You can add like post flare and user flare and organize everything. And now you can post images, links, text posts, polls.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find some people I know to mod and run it and grow it. That might be really helpful because I've been definitely looking for more ways to do that.
I mean, it's not that hard to. You can just post like when you make a new link for a video, or you have a time, you can even like schedule the post to pop up at a certain time. But I mean, you can get admins or us to do it too. Yeah.
Yeah. See, if I'm sure one of the things I use probably has an automated send a thing to Reddit option. I'll probably see if I can find one of those for every time I create a video.
Exactly. That's all right. I invited you TJump _ as a mod to the TJump's chair.
All right. Reddit. Notifications. You are invited to. Where's the yes button? To accept, please visit.
You have to exactly. You have to click that link.
Accept.
Click accept.
Got it. Awesome.
Cool. So you have full permissions. There'll be a little mod button in the top right of like the page when you're on that subreddit, and you can click that and then edit everything. There'll be like a panel on the far left.
Mod tools.
Yep.
Hey,
Um,
I removed the timeout from, so
Awesome.
you should be good.
He should be able to hear that if he's still in the YouTube thingy.
yeah, there's these two tabs called community settings and community appearance. Those are like the important ones. To like make changes to. You can add your icons as images. There's a banner that kind of gives it some style. You can add like a post background and all sorts of stuff. And you can add a wiki page. You can add custom awards. People like Reddit recently added like this ability to get power ups, which means like people subscribe and spend like $6 a month on your subreddit, and then
Oh,
you get like
nice.
extra abilities like responding to gifs and stuff. So you have to kind of get like a few thousand subscribers usually to get to that point, but maybe you could get some super fans that do that here. um, but yeah, I mean, there's honestly not like a ton of great like discussion subreddits. Like if you want to make it into like a religious debate subreddit, like you can like allow that, or you can kind of keep it around like your content. Um, like it could be, you could host conversations there too, same as here.
All right.
I posted the street epistemology link in general. In there you can see a good example of like how far we can how far we can bring the subreddit. Did you watch Doug's interview with Gary Habermas?
Just the first part.
The first part, like the first 30 minutes?
I think so.
It was only like 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah, it was only like 25 minutes long. That's it. Canadian Catholic took up most of the rest of the time with other stuff.
Yeah, he had some stupid questions in the beginning. I was actually so we made an unofficial Pine Creek server, and then he was trolling it. So you can find a link to that on our Pine Creek server if you want to go there. Reddit. Um. Oh yeah. Reddit is also adding talks, kind of like the Clubhouse feature. So that's going to be like a new content type that mods can select. They're like testing it now, and you can like ask for it as a mod. So that would actually be great for random anyone join debates and stuff.
Yep, definitely have to look more into that, see if it's an opportunity to grow stuff. What did you think of the Habermas Pine Creek interview?
Me?
Yeah, whoever was asking if I saw it.
Oh, that was me. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the whole like like I guess the cool thing is we haven't really seen street epistemology like used against an apologist. Like you see it a lot used against kind of like college kids and preachers who are kind of like just yelling, you know. But like, so it was interesting to see Doug try and pry and find issues with his logic. But he was just so flustered, you know. He like it was really hard for him to
Yeah,
think in hypotheticals. He just like couldn't go there, and he was just like he'd get bogged down in the specifics and then like explode. And then
yeah,
Doug would try and calm him down, and then like ask the question in a simpler way, and then he would go ranting off of some little word he heard, and it was like, gosh, like you're just using up so much of the time.
that's what they almost all do. Just bloviate nonstop.
Yeah, it was the bloviation alert the whole way. I like Doug got some good points and made some good like digs, I think. But hard to say, explain them now.
He did definitely show that the
Plus,
whole minimal. Oh, go
the
ahead.
minimal facts, right? It's like completely arbitrary, right? Like you just
Yeah,
pick these random 6 facts and say, oh, these are the important ones. But like we could make a brand new religion and say these 6 facts are that Myron flew, and boom, you know, like if you just accept all those, then they're true. Oh, and then Doug brought up a case of like uh, people dying for their beliefs for Myron or whatever, and then like the martyrdom argument was brought up as a new argument from Habermas. So he was like, Doug was like, wait, now you're adding more minimal facts to your first 6 to justify the first 6. So I don't know. I think it's all just post hoc rationalizations. Faith. It's mysterious.
Yeah, I don't think even if we granted the 6 facts, it means anything about God. It's like, okay.
Right, right. Like, how can we learn more now? Like, oh,
yeah. That might be one of the worst argument is the whole minimal facts thing, and I like how Doug pointed that out. That's pretty much like you're going to turn more people away than you are going to actually bring them onto it.
Hey, Tom, did you see the debate between apostate prophet and that one guy Ali Dawa?
Ali Dawa.
Yeah, Ali
Surely you
Dawa.
saw that one.
I
You
don't
had
That
think
to.
one was
so.
funny.
The one where he literally said, "I want people killed." You didn't see that?
Mm-mm.
Oh man.
Pretty
Yeah,
much
he was
every
literally.
Muslim debate ends
You gotta
up
watch that one, Tom.
saying that.
Yeah, that's 100% worth it. I mean,
How
he
do
just
you
straight up advocated, "I want to kill people."
turn off cameras again?
You want me to turn it off?
Yeah, I don't want no cameras.
I got you.
Is there a way to disable
Why are you
that
smoking
option
in your
somewhere?
room anyway?
Oh,
I mean, if I could, I would smoke in my house too, though. If I could.
I'm at my balcony. My room has a small balcony. I smoke there.
Fine.
I just smoke my weed right where I sit.
Yeah,
I'm
I
in
mean, I'm
Canada.
vaping, but that's like innocent.
Huh?
You just gotta make sure you have a candle for the smell.
Not with vaporized, like hash oil.
Oh, when it's vaporized, though, it's different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got lots of charcoal filters around, considering I do a lot of soldering in here.
Charcoal filters.
Takes the flux out of the air. Soldering.
What what equipment are you using to get high?
I usually weed.
I don't know, but like a bong, pipe.
Oh, just a pipe or a bong.
More reliable. I want to get like a volcano.
I've got a hookah as
Wow.
well.
Get a
Oh,
volcano?
that was fun.
No, are we supposed to be
Yeah.
talking about weed in here? TJump?
Yeah, maybe we should.
'Cause I don't know if he's live or not.
Yeah, it's live. I don't care though.
Okay.
Hey, Tom, I did it. Now, you can't. No more videos. So
All right, thanks.
yeah.
I thought I had you a debate there, but they looked at my rolls and said, "What's that?" They saw that dishonest
Did
one.
you make that for all channels or just this one? Or like, oh, there's a lounge VC. Should make like
Hopefully
one
just this
forever.
one.
Anyone watching the Olympics?
Lame.
Fuck no.
Here and there when needed. People spend their whole 4 years just so they can fuck up in the first 10 seconds.
I mean, the Olympics are alright, but there's no reason to just watch other people do sports when you can do it yourself.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, I'm not a big sports person. I just kind of sit in my room with it, deal with dabble with shit.
Why
on
watch
internet.
YouTube when you could participate in Discord and be on YouTube?
You know, that'd be interesting. I suppose.
Oh boy, answers in Genesis. Monkey teeth, proof of God's post-flood provision.
What about the strange and unusual atheist flat earther?
Atheist flat earther? Oh yeah, are those real? I've heard
They're
those
rare.
are real, but
They're very rare.
they're rare. They're like the rarest species of them all. And I'm always like, God,
Conspiracy theorists.
I get so mad when they appear because I'm like, wait, you're not just like citing the Bible. Like, what are you citing? Like, why do you care? Like, there's no post hoc reason to care about this. And then it's just like they hate government. There's other emotional issues usually.
I remember one time we had back when Stage Discovery was on, we had a stage going, a flat Earth stage, and Tom went on pretending to be a flat earther. That was funny.
Nice.
I think he said something
It would be
about
fun. Like, I don't know if I could like lie that hard though. Like, so I'm like, what model am I even believing in?
Hey Frank, didn't he
Okay.
actually trick me with that?
I don't know. Maybe he did.
Yeah, I think
know
God was there,
Jose
and he thought that
Jose
was.
got me with it once.
Yeah, it was I think God thought I was literally a flat earther at the time, and then the same with what was it? Ilmatic pretending to be Jay Dyer.
Yeah, that was great. He did that a few times. I actually have that on recording somewhere.
The interaction between me and TJump with him playing Flirt. Okay. See that.
No, I remember TJump said something about general density or something like that, Tom? Oh my god. That was funny.
Yeah, there's no gravity, it's relative density.
Relative density, right?
Yep. Goblin Lord, question for TJump. I understand your position on objective morality, but I actually don't understand why you accept that it's subjective in the first place, because I think it's an actual thing in nature. I think it's an actual like emergent property in nature, and not just a thing made up in human psychology. So it's an actually existing phenomenon. That's a pattern that would be universal, and it's objective.
I wanted to ask you, why do you think truth is that which corresponds to reality instead of something else?
I don't understand the question because that's just the definition of the word. You mean why don't I use like the coherence theory of truth rather than the correspondence or something?
Yeah, there's all kinds of different, versions of truth that you could come up with, but people just define it as that. So why do you think that is what truth is? Just because that's what people say so?
Well, they're all just different definitions of truth. The correspondence,
Exactly.
coherence.
So why'd you choose that one?
Because I think it's right.
Why? That's my question.
Because what I mean when I say truth is that which corresponds to reality.
Okay, so it's just what you want. Okay.
Truth is a property of sentences. It's, does this sentence do something? And the way to express what it does is contingent on the speaker. Like, what do you mean by this sentence? What do you mean when you say true? So when I say true, when I say this sentence is true, I mean this sentence describes something in reality. So truth doesn't like exist in the universe. Truth isn't like an actual property anywhere in the universe. Truth is a property of sentences humans made up. Does this sentence describe reality? So
Okay.
you can make up a different definition of truth if you want and say, I think that truth describes something else. But I mean, like, it's just not what I mean by the word.
Right. And so you wouldn't be able to tell that person they're wrong when they say the truth is this other thing. You just have to say, well, that's just not what I mean by it, right?
Right. Because, yeah, truth is a property of sentences. If they said something about reality, I could say they're wrong, but truth isn't.
Exactly. It's not an objective thing that's actually like out there that can be found. It's actually just what we create, right?
Yeah, truth is just a word we use to describe whether or not sentences just do something. The sentence accomplishes this goal.
That's how I see it too. I don't think there's any like actual truth out there. I think it's just our made up construct.
Truth is in the table. The table is true. Like, what?
Damn
the
right.
table can't be true. That doesn't make any sense. The sentence that describes the table is true. The table can't be true.
Everything becomes really abstract, huh?
What?
Like you can turn every word down into a very abstract thing where it like loses its meaning. I just hate when like theist arguments end up there.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Hey, Tom, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, thanks. First of all, thanks, Frank, for getting me on here. I wanted to ask go back to the objective morality point.
All right.
Because, so I would agree that you just said a minute ago that there's a pattern that's objective. You can see it, right? It's, let's say one example of people always give is killing babies is wrong.
Yes.
And like, that's something that, basically universally everybody would agree upon. But the root of it is people's feeling about it. That everybody feels that it's wrong. And I think you've said things like that before. So,
well, that's just the phenomenon. I think that the root of it is actually a thing that exists in the universe. It's not just people's feelings.
Well, so why do you think that?
Because I think it's going to be a consistent pattern in the universe everywhere, no matter what. It's independent of all human life. All life on Earth, it's still going to be there.
Why do you think that?
I think it's an objective thing. That is a pattern, that is an emergent phenomenon that exists in all life everywhere in the universe.
Well, okay, so all life everywhere in the universe?
Yeah.
What would you say to like the lions that eat the babies of
they don't have the intellectual capacity to have understood it yet, so they need more intellectual development and then they'll be able to understand it. So it's the pattern is that as you gain in intellectual capabilities, then you will gain in intellect and resources, you will have an increase in moral aptitude. So lions don't have the correct intellect or available resources to do that. And if lions do have the available resources, they don't eat things anymore. They don't kill. Like if you give a cat enough food, it won't start killing things for food anymore.
I don't think that's not true. If you give cat plenty of food, it'll still like kill the bird when it has a chance.
Not for food.
Yeah, he's right. Yeah, you said not for food. Yeah, you're right.
So as intellect increases in animals, you see a pattern where the morality, converges with what we think it should be.
Yes. So the more intelligent the animal, the more moral they seem to be, or more aptitude for morality they seem to have.
That's what I noticed too.
I think that this is a pattern that you can see, but I don't know how do you prove that? And I know you might say that you cannot prove anything definitively. You can just sort of look at the patterns and surmise a general direction. But I think the problem that I have with when you say that that's objective is, and then you even go as far as to say things like it's, a law of physics, the same way you could, measure the weight of something. I think it's just not as clear as that. I don't think you can prove it as definitively as that. You can sort of say, I noticed this.
Yet,
and I
you
have
can't do it yet.
a general sense that it's going in that direction, but it's not as like, it's not as objective as like weighing the weight of a, tire or something.
Right. So what I say is that in the future, we will hypothetically be able to discover this field, and we will be able to prove it in the future. Not that we can do it now.
So it's really just, it's a kind of a conjecture that it's
a
objective.
hypothesis.
Like you're saying it's a hypothesis that in the future we may be able to.
Yes, it's a hypothesis to explain the data that makes testable predictions, which might be confirmed in future. Yes.
Okay, but it's not yet.
Right. If it was already, I'd have a Nobel Prize. So obviously not yet.
Right. So I have difficulty then like concluding that it's objective. It's sort of, you're claiming that based on the data you've seen, it seems objective, and it seems like it could be proven to be so in the future, but it's not necessarily.
Yeah, I find it highly likely that these things will be discovered in the future. We will find out that, yes, this pattern maintains throughout all life in the universe, and we will probably discover why.
Okay.
You mean like laws of like cooperation, or like ways that organisms like share and like have their benefits shared perfectly and stuff like that?
What?
Like we might just find like constant equations to those kinds of questions.
Sort of, but I'm saying there's literally a physical law that causes all of those things. And there's like an actual emergent property that results from interactions of brains that actually exists independent of those brains.
But again, there's not good evidence of that.
It's a hypothesis. I already said that. If I had proven it, I'd have a Nobel Prize. If there was any like really strong evidence, I'd have a Nobel Prize.
Right. So I guess my problem is that you're claiming that this is kind of true, or you go on and claim you believe that objective morality
I believe it because it's highly likely. It seems very highly likely this will happen.
Okay. Now, could I ask too? I'm sorry, I don't mean to dominate the conversation. I've just been listening to a lot of your stuff, and I think it's really interesting. So, how do you deal with in your model moral ambiguity? Because what I mean by that is, and you could educate me on this, but like things like a trolley problem, where let's say you have, pick your favorite one, and you were to ask 100 people, it's not like 100 people are going to give different answers, because there's a gray area based on what you feel about the situation. And for me, that would be evidence, or that would be explained by morality ultimately being subjective to the person who is making the moral judgment. Because I think it's subjective. So how do you explain multiple people having different answers to that? Or you could also talk about different cultures having, different attitudes about different ethical, what's ethical in one culture is not the same as in a different culture. How does that shake out to be then objective across everybody?
The same reason that if you show people an optical illusion, they'll see a white dress and a white and gold dress instead of a black and blue dress. People's subjective interpretations don't affect the objectivity of things. The fact that they see things differently doesn't mean it's not objective. So that's irrelevant, really. Like, the white and gold versus black and blue dress thing?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing. The fact that people see morality differently doesn't mean there isn't an objective morality. My evidence for the objective morality is that there is a consistent pattern throughout all of life and human cultures over time. The fact that some people haven't been affected by that in the same way others have doesn't make a difference.
So I would say I agree with you. Two people see an optical illusion, or they look at the dress thing and they see it differently. And you're saying there is a fact of the matter that you can get to the bottom of, like whether, an optical illusion or something.
Yep.
But I don't see, going back to the first point, that you don't really have the evidence yet of objective morality. I would say that we don't, you can't get to the fact of the matter around morality the same way you can with an optical illusion.
Right, and I already said if I could, I'd have a Nobel Prize.
Subjective.
Like, I don't know why you keep repeating the same question over and over again. Yes, I can't prove it's real. If I did, I'd have a Nobel Prize. That's like saying, if somebody believes we're going to discover
Tom,
aliens...
But if I said I could prove God exists, then I'd have a Nobel Prize too. I mean, you could say anything. Like, you're claiming that it's objective. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but it sounds like you're claiming it's objective, but you don't have good evidence. That's the same thing theists do about God.
No, it's not, because they're claiming they already have they're claiming they already have good evidence. I'm not claiming I already have good evidence. I have a hypothesis that I think is highly likely.
But what would you say to a theist who said,
well, if they just said God was a hypothesis, that's fine.
I haven't proven it yet. Like, I believe it's true because I've seen, of
that's
all
fine.
the experience
That's
I've had.
Totally fine. So they can say, I have a hypothesis, I think it's true, I don't have any good evidence, then they'd be like, okay, cool.
Just that none of them do that.
Yep.
What do you think is the best counter argument or other argument other than objective morality as this law?
Say what?
Like, is there subjective morality? Like, as
could you rephrase your original question?
Are you asking what the second best thing would be if it wasn't objective morality?
Right. Like, if that wasn't the answer.
Oh, yeah, evolution is the one that's the most supported right now. Evolutionary based morality.
Okay, cool.
Do you think that moral intuition and moral progress and being able to solve moral problems, those are all weak evidence, not strong apparently?
Well, they're the phenomenon, so they're like the things we're trying to explain. So they themselves wouldn't necessarily be evidence, they're just the phenomenon we're trying to explain.
Gotcha.
And does evolution basically like find or like be guided kind of by this physical law of morality, of the objective morality?
What?
Like the current view is just evolution happened and people are moral for reasons basically, but what am I saying? That instead of just evolution, it's like evolution like worked along these formulas that we can like objectively verify.
What?
Like the evolution of a population in a species changes over time, right?
Sure.
Maybe the ways that the members of the group, they like share food or they share labor in some kind of fractal way. Like fractals pop up a lot in evolution, and then like people are like, oh, that means there's like some math law of God giver thing out there, right? It would be kind of like that, but instead of fractals, we're getting these objective laws of morality.
Sort of, yeah. I think I see what you're saying, that some people find a connection in mathematical similarities and infer a mind from that. And so if we infer pattern similarities in morality, we can infer some kind of objective thing from that, I guess, yes.
It doesn't even have to be like a mind guiding.
Right. I didn't mean to imply it was a mind.
This algorithm, right? Where like populations kind of thrive under these inputs, and then
so it's like a law of physics kind of.
Populations hit that, right? So but like
because laws of physics are mathematic regularities in the universe. So if we see a mathematical regularity in the nature of social animals, that's kind of like a mathematical regularity in the law of physics.
Yeah, and like the evolutionary ecologists and stuff, they actually crunch all these numbers and figure out the averages, and then they can talk about it as measurements. Pretty cool.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think you're kind of right. I think like the challenge though is that like evolution will have to figure out like how those like algorithms kind of came across or just got selected over all the other ones, which I guess is kind of accomplishable if you like have bacteria kind of follow the algorithm you end up finding. You could think of it as like bacteria sharing like a glucose source in a petri dish, right? Like they could all eat it really fast and then die out, or they could kind of create community and share it somehow.
Yeah, I think so.
Any good debates coming up this weekend?
This weekend, I don't think I have anything
Friday
until
tomorrow, right?
Monday. I have one tomorrow. With Mango. Mango is coming back.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
No.
Is that about objective morality again?
I have no idea. He paid for the debate. He can say whatever he wants to say.
I was gonna say that. Did he pay again?
Yep.
What a dummy.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I hope biblical shows
Is
back
he
up.
a theist or an atheist?
He's the shapes and
I
colors.
missed the last.
Yeah, I think he's a theist.
Ooh.
He's not a deist, is he?
I'm still kind of thinking he's probably Mango. He's probably the same as Mango. He's also from Australia, so I'm thinking he's Mango. I mean, I think Mango is biblical theism for the win. Biblical.
Oh, he definitely is.
Oh.
I think didn't he call Atheist Experience or talk to him a few months ago?
Oh yeah. Like for a couple weeks in a row on every single show.
He's hard to listen to. But keep taking his money.
Yep.
He's not a flat earther, is he?
I don't think he knows shapes well.
Possible.
Flat is the lack of a shape.
No. Flat is the shape of a flat earther's brain.
Oh my God, your discussion with Mango was almost too much to watch. Isn't Mango the guy from Blazing Saddles? I don't know.
Mongo.
Mongo
like candy.
Matt C. Speaking of Matt Dillahunty, would you debate him on recent comments about you? Sure, I do. I think I would like to do a debate with Matt on can you disagree with leftist topics without being bigoted. I think that's one I'm really interested in doing.
No. It's impossible.
It's impossible. That's what most of them say. They just define. If you disagree, I define you as bigoted. Like, what? You can't do that.
Exactly right. Yep. You nailed it.
I'm gonna have dinner. TJump, I'll let you know if your subreddit, the old one, gets cleared up.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks.
Otherwise, we'll use this one. Yeah. Everyone, make a Reddit account, subscribe to it. You can post links, text posts, write articles. Just like a public database, basically, about whatever topic you want.
Kind of like Discord is now.
Like, basically, yeah. Like you can maybe take your favorite TJump video, or debate, and then post that on the subreddit, and then like say, "This is clearly the best. Change my mind." Stuff like that makes really good content. And also TJump, we can build a schedule in and connect like a Google Calendar and stuff, and all your future all your future debates can be like in the sidebar
Cool.
on Reddit. So like people could use that basically to figure out when new debates are coming. All right, guys, I'm out.
See you later.
We're going.
Hey, Tom.
By the way,
Hey.
go ahead.
So sorry to belabor this point. I've just been kind of mulling over what you said. So you're familiar with Sam Harris's health analogy to morality, right?
Yep.
So would you be tempted to posit that there's like a law of physics called health that we're all like moving toward in a similar fashion? It troubles me that you're positing this hypothesis when it seems like a far simpler explanation is that just like health, people don't want to be sick. They don't want to throw up all the time. So generally speaking, we all agree that it's healthy to not throw up all the time. That's a subjective fact. We can speak objectively about a subjective fact about ourselves. That's how he phrases it. And I would just think that morality is exactly the same way. It's just there's a lot of things that are subjective preferences that so many people have in common that then we codify them as morality. We make laws about them. People generally agree about them. I don't see why you're tempted to posit a law of physics like gravity. Would you be tempted to posit something like that about health in the same way or any other kind of similar analogous topic?
Health, no, because health doesn't really make a difference because you can just change your physical shape, your physical body. Health then is just irrelevant. So I would say that
it's the same. Sorry, go ahead.
It's not the same thing. So I'd say that morality is a thing we will see as the same everywhere in the universe. If we go to another species, another planet, will they have a view of morality? Yes. Will it follow the same pattern ours does? Yes. Will they have the same view of health? No. Because they'll have different bodies, presumably.
If you find an alien species that's vomiting all the time, I mean, presumably if they have any type of anatomical structure like we do, like...
Right, but they could just have a different anatomical structure where vomiting is good for them. It's a part of healthy things like birds where they vomit food, and then it wouldn't be unhealthy anymore. So that's purely subjective to the physical shape of the body and nothing else.
But okay, would they not though have the concept of health not as specific to vomiting, but just the idea of things that make you, live longer and flourish more versus things that make you die and be diseased, whatever shape that takes?
Not necessarily, no, because there could be different things. Like they could live like the tardigrade or things that don't die and don't age and have a completely different view of health. So no, it would not work that way.
Well, not aging, but something could still kill them, right? Like getting their head chopped off or something. Yes. But presumably, if we're talking about a different species or alien, they are organic,
No, I say organic and synthetic. So like artificial intelligence is non.
Okay.
I don't know what that's.
Okay, how about something that has a physical body?
They're still going to have
the concepts of health.
They're still going to have a physical body, but no. So the answer is going to continue to be no. No matter how many times you ask, it's going to still be no.
I don't see why it fails, though.
Because physical health is contingent on how your body works. How your body can work can be completely opposite. So what can be healthy for one is not healthy for another. Someone can vomit all the time, and that be a healthy part of how their body works. So no, it's not objective in that way.
I think, though, you could make similar points about morality, it being subjective.
I'm saying that's literally wrong, that everywhere in the universe are going to say, yes, they're going to find this exact same pattern.
But certain things aren't always immoral to different people in different cultures.
Because they're ignorant of morality, Kay.
I wouldn't say that's right. I mean, let me give you like an example.
I don't want an example because I already know what you're going to say. You're going to ask the same question over and over again, and I'm going to tell you the exact same answer over and over again. When we go into the universe, we're going to discover that all the species with the same intellectual capability we have will have the same patterns of morality we have. And if you get more intellectual and more technologically advanced, you're going to have the same pattern accentuated into the future. Like I don't know why you keep asking the same question over and over again.
What about infidelity and cheating, right? So
I don't think it's immoral.
That's generally considered wrong, but it's not considered wrong to the same extent in every culture. Like some cultures expect it and actually are kind of interested or intrigued by it.
Yeah.
But in other cultures, it's considered immoral.
Yep. And
so that would be to me an example, or
I already answered that. That's the same as the
subjective.
white gold dress and the black blue dress. The fact that people interpret things differently is irrelevant.
So you would claim there is an actual true fact of the matter.
Yes.
Whether cheating
is
immoral or not.
It is not immoral.
It's not.
No.
But what about people who consider it? I don't compute. Like
They're wrong.
Who then decides? Like how do we know?
The universe itself decides. It's literally written into the fabric of reality. It is a law of physics. The universe decides. You don't get an opinion.
Sure. Okay. So you're positing there is a physical law, like a law of physics.
Yep.
That determines whether cheating is wrong or not.
Sort of. Yes.
And all the people in the world, some people who think it's good, some people who think it's bad, are just interpreting that. They're looking at a dress differently, and some of them are looking at the law of physics correctly, and some of them are looking at it incorrectly.
Yes.
And we don't know whether it's correct or not until we one day discover the law of physics.
Yes.
Right.
But that's kind of, the only thing that's a little impractical in terms of like how we make moral decisions day to day to wait until
that doesn't matter. Like whether or not it's practical is irrelevant. So whether or not it's practical to like measure the speed of light in the 1900s is irrelevant. Like we couldn't do it. Does that mean it's true or false? No. The pragmatic implication is irrelevant here to the truth.
Well, I think that is true. I agree, but it's relevant for people who talk about morality as being important. And the reason we're even talking about this is like kind of an atheist channel, right? And God is like, the sort of the topic du jour, right? And the point is that the reason what theists do is they've put morality up as a reason to explain why God exists, right? And then they say to atheists, explain morality. If we don't have morality, then like atheism is, bad effectively. And you're positing this physical law point. And I don't think that's, it's just a hypothesis. There's no good evidence to support it. And so when you put that out there, I think it makes, in my opinion, again, no offense, but I think it's a bad argument, because when people hear you say that morality is like a physical law like gravity, it sounds like it's kind of stupid because we don't have any evidence for that. I think it's a far better explanation to just say that it is the result of the data we see. Human beings are, generally agree on a lot of these things, and there's ambiguity, yes, but it ultimately is subjective, and we all agree on it. That's the truth.
Well, you can think that, but you're just wrong. So again, consensus of experts in philosophy is that it's objective right now. The question is how. So it's not really, like, you can think that as much as you want. I just don't care.
So the consensus of philosophy, it's objective because there's a physical law.
No, that's just my hypothesis. They have lots of different explanations of what it is. Emergent property, a priori abstract, Platonic object. There's lots of different theories. We have no idea. I think it's going to be a physical law kind of a thing.
Well, I guess I disagree.
I get your concern that it looks bad in terms of like practicality, but it depends on what you're after. Are you after the truth, or are you after just something that's practical?
Well, I think that practicality is like the most important thing about morality. Like I agree with you, the distinction between what's actually true, what's factually true, and what is practical, right? But morality, the relevance of why we even talk about morality, it's not because we think there's some true thing in the universe, like a law of physics. The reason anyone cares about morality is because it has to do with how we treat each other, and that is completely a practical consideration. So, like, how should we act toward one another? That's a relevant, important question that people care about, and that's why it's always coming up in theist and atheist debates. Because they're saying, this thing that everybody really cares about, guess what? We're theists. We can ground it because we have a source of it. You, as an atheist, can't. And that's a weakness of your worldview. that's the reason it's coming up, not because we're trying to solve the E equals MC squared of the morality of the universe.
That's exactly what they're trying to do.
Who is?
Theists. They're saying they can solve the E equals MC squared of morality. That's the whole point of the God thing. When they say ground it, what they mean is they have some kind of correspondence to reality that they can ascribe to morality, and atheists can't. So there's some phenomenon in reality that can't be explained that they can explain. They're literally trying to do the E equals MC squared thing to morality.
That's true, but I would say the way to undercut that argument is to say, because actually, let me make one other point. Is if it were true, if you were to grant theists that their God does exist, then I actually think they do have a basis for objective morality, because it's objective the same way that you can look at a yardstick and say this is objectively 1 inch, right? You can objectively look at the rules that the Sky Daddy put out there and say, those are the rules, they're objective because he put them out there. And now you might argue, yeah, but ultimately that's subjective because they're just up to the whims of the Sky Daddy. And I would agree with that. But nevertheless, you could change on a yardstick what an inch is. So the same way the Sky Daddy could change the rules, but at any given moment, the inch is the inch and the rules are the rules. So if you grant that God exists, I think they do have a basis for objective morality in the sense that it's observable and objective. Boom, that's the rule, right? But the way to undercut them is to say, that's all well and good, but the reality is you just haven't shown that the God exists. Instead, what you're doing is you're trying to undercut them by saying it's a law of physics, which is a hypothesis
quite.
You have no evidence for.
So there's 3 things there. One is that when we're asking about real morality, objective morality, we want to know, is something real, true, independent of opinion? That's what objective means. So if it's contingent on God's opinion, it's not objective.
It's not best. Sorry, you finish your point.
The second thing is that the way to counter their argument is just to say, you've made up something to ground morality, we can make up a different thing to ground morality. So we don't even need to provide evidence of a law of physics. We can just say it's possible to ground it without a God, because anything else we could make up could also ground it. And so you don't need to provide evidence for it. But those are also completely separate from whether or not there is such a thing as objective morality.
Sorry.
So the way I address their argument is just to say we can make up something to ground morality too. Neither of us have any more evidence, so we're both equally justified. I don't actually use this as a way to necessarily counter their argument. What I think morality is separate from countering their argument.
Mm-hmm. But you think it is the physical law?
Yes.
Right. I mean, going back to the first comment you made, remind me, what's your definition of objective? It's independent of opinion?
True, independent of opinion, yeah.
Okay, so I guess this is just a fundamental difference of opinion, but I think that going back to the morality question about, infidelity, for example, or you could pick a huge number of gray area topics where the ethical choice is a kind of a gray area. It ultimately comes back to the human being's feelings, the subject's feelings about what that morality is. I mean, I guess you're just going to say I'm still saying the same thing over and over, but
I'm saying,
that seems to be a lot better.
Response.
It seems to be a lot better of an explanation than to just hypothesize a law of physics for which you have no evidence. Isn't like why is your explanation better than mine when I'm talking about, like, it seems fairly obvious that I have a feeling about morality. Other people all have feelings about morality. We come together as a society and we create traditions and standards based on our collective feelings. That seems to be like a very sensible explanation for what's going on. And then you're positing something for which you have no evidence. Why do you go with that explanation and not mine, I guess?
Because yours would make no sense as to why we see moral progress. That's the exact same in every culture and every species on the planet that follows the same pattern.
Well, I think I can make sense of that. And that is,
no, if it's arbitrary and decided by the values of the people, then it would be random. There wouldn't be one. If there wouldn't be a consistent pattern that's the same in all cultures all over the world. It wouldn't make sense anymore.
I think the way that I would explain the point, so I have an answer for you. The way I would explain it is, I guess I'd probably reference back to Sam Harris with the concept of well-being, which is that even though people have differences of, I think so. There's different categories. Some categories purely are subjective, and we just make up a rule, like let's say infidelity and Latin culture. My wife's from Latin culture. Like I've learned about that through her, that they have different like sensibilities about these things, right? And so those are things where the morality is sort of, actually is subjective in the end. But then there's other things that you could ground in well-being, which have to do with really physically hurting people, causing pain, stealing things, giving people freedom. There is a well-being that you can ground the subjectivity to, that creates progress when people are creating more well-being over time. And we discover those things through consistent, reliable patterns, like more liberty, freedom from pain and suffering. Those things can explain why subjects have better experiences in life and more well-being when they're free from suffering and all those terrible things. And that's why we have progress in the direction towards more freedom.
Okay, so that didn't make any sense.
What's wrong with that explanation?
Well, it doesn't make any sense. Like, well-being is just another word for the same thing we're already talking about, and you're just granting that there's some objective features or something. Like, seems to go counter against your argument, but again, it didn't make any sense. So you're trying to explain, why is there moral progress that is the same across all species and all cultures everywhere in the world? Because well-being is a thing. That doesn't quite answer the question.
Well, it would say that the answer is people have common experiences, right? Like they let's take slavery as an example. There was a time when, the most powerful people could enslave other people. And then over time, we realized like that's a bad thing because I wouldn't want to be enslaved. We have, as a society, we progress because we have, a more comprehensive understanding of morality. And that is the well-being. Like that seems perfectly reasonable to me. Maybe I didn't articulate it very well, but it's...
Why do all societies follow the exact same pattern? Why do we all value the same things, independent of culture and values? You can't say culture and values because it's independent of culture and values. Well, why do we see these patterns in animals that have no human culture and values?
Because it's something like, the painfulness of pain. Like, why do we move towards not inflicting pain on each other? That's in the moral bucket. It's because we don't like pain. It's common across all species of animals and people.
You're talking about moral intuition and moral progress, right?
I'm explaining why there's moral without the need for there to be a physical law for it. And I think it's kind of common sense, or maybe I'm doing a poor job explaining it, but like if you say, I don't want to be hurt, I don't want to feel physical pain. And so societies over time gradually start to realize, they start to get the joke that if I'm not inflicting pain on other people and we have general order where people aren't inflicting pain on each other, then I'm less likely to have it and we'll all get along better. So that is the direction of all societies, because they all get the joke that if we're not hurting each other, that means I'm going to have less pain. That's better for me. So let's all collaborate here. And that's just that's the direction of everybody. I don't see why does that require, a law of physics.
Because
it seems obvious.
Empathy is only a thing that evolved more recently, and it's not, morality exists in things with no empathy. So it can't be based on empathy.
Morality exists in things with no empathy. Like, can you give me like animals, you mean, or something?
Yep. Like animals, and in my hypothesis, AI will probably have it too. So yes, it will not only exist in empathy things, and we see moral progress in things that have no empathy.
I would say, first of all, I guess it depends on which animals, but you could probably explain that through evolution and social species. And also, some people would argue that some animals probably do have empathy. Like,
well, lots of animals do have empathy, but not all of them. And morality exists in things that don't.
Sure. So give me an example, just because I just can't think of any. What's an example?
Smaller insects that exhibit moral things and helping.
Right. So like bees, they collaborate. They have their roles. They have like a society that has rules and laws of behavior, and ants and all this. I would say that is a product purely of evolution, where you have, when ants are collaborating together, they're able to propagate their DNA more. So that explains why they collaborate the way they do. And it looks like we interpret it as morals, but it's really just the logical, common sense conclusion of what they need to survive if they're collaborating in a better fashion.
Okay, and you're just obviously wrong. Like, this is going to happen. We're going to discover other species and other things, and they will have morality. So your model is provably wrong. We're going to discover morality in things that aren't evolutionary, so it's going to be provably have nothing to do with evolution. Like, this is not even hard.
What? You're saying you just said I'm obviously wrong, but
yes,
you also said that we're going to prove. So you're saying I'm obviously wrong for something that hasn't been proven yet. Like if you did prove it, then I'd be obviously wrong. But it hasn't been proven. It's just a hypothesis.
No. What you're saying is obviously wrong. Like, no one agrees with what you just said, so that doesn't work. The models in morality in what?
There's people who agree with him.
No, like in academia, I'm saying. Like in academia, his model doesn't work that way.
Can I probe you there? Because
that's not the point now, is it? You said no one agrees with him. There are people.
I'm gonna kick you if you're that pedantic. I'm just gonna kick you. Obviously, I didn't mean literally no one. That's just stupid. Don't waste my time on that pedantic garbage.
I agree.
The point here is that it seems obvious, seems highly likely we will discover other species. They will still have a model of morality. Any kind of interaction will build a model of morality. It doesn't require evolution. It just doesn't make any sense what you're saying. Like, I don't.
Okay.
It's just a stupid thing to say. Like, there's a reason the consensus is yes, we're going to find these patterns in everything. It's not just going to be in humans. It's not just evolutionary. We're going to find these same patterns. This pattern is more than just a product of evolution.
So you're saying, and you could be very well right, I just don't know. You're saying that the consensus view in academia is the reason that ants behave the way they do to each other is because they have a moral system.
No, that's
that is
not,
somehow.
No.
Well, because you just said what I said was obviously wrong. I said that their interactions are a product of evolution. It's not a product of like a hypothetical law of physics. It's the result of them evolving to help each other. You said that's obviously wrong. Nobody agrees with that.
Wasn't what I was responding to. So I'm just.
What do they say?
As I said before, the consensus in academia is morality is an objective thing. There is a right and wrong answer here. That's the position.
How do they explain the ant morality?
How do they explain the ant's morality? Like, I don't know. I was saying now I explain it. I think that the fact that we see these patterns in all different species is a result of the pattern being a thing, an actual emergent phenomenon that exists. This is not hard. There's nothing hard about this.
No, I'm following you, but we came down this path because you said that it's going to exist across all cultures, all species, right? And then you said including species.
I'm tired of answering the same question over and fucking over again.
Okay. Well, all right. I mean,
thank you for the super chat, Matt C.
If you don't want to talk about it anymore, then
yeah, it's so fucking stupid. Like, no, we will discover morality in future things. If you don't believe that, you're a dumbass. Like, you have to be stupid to not think, yes, we're going to discover morality in other things. Yes, it's probably going to follow the same pattern, which means everything you're saying is wrong.
Tom, you're a very smart guy, and you're saying that I'm a dumbass because we're probably going to discover something?
Yes.
But, I mean, come on. That's you're saying
will we discover other life forms? Hypothetically, will they have morality? Yes. Okay, problem solved. Like, do you think they will not have morality? Will other species on other planets, will they not have morality?
I think they will.
Will it follow the exact same patterns ours does?
To the extent, yeah, I mean, it'll probably follow patterns.
Yeah, because there's objective things like health, that they will always follow these objective patterns, and it will be the same across all conscious agents in the universe, won't it?
But that doesn't show that there's like a law of physics.
There's something there. There's something that causes certain consciousnesses to form a certain set of desires that correspond to some set of values. Yes? And it's not always health. People don't give a shit about health. People sometimes choose to suicide. That's perfectly fine. And we understand that if someone wants to die, they're morally allowed to die. So morality can go against health. Perfectly fine. And this will be the same everywhere in the universe.
Right. But you
So yes,
said
there's
stuff
some
like there's like
pattern.
a
There is
moral
some pattern. There is some
field or something,
function
like-
of reality that causes consciousnesses to have this set of values that is independent of health, independent of evolution, most likely. This is not hard. This is very, very simple. Very, very simple stuff. Will this happen? Yes. Is a universe better without rape? Yes. This is not hard to say.
No, I get that, but again, so
I don't want
can
to talk about this anymore. So fucking dumb. Too many times. The few things that piss me off, repeating the same answer over and over again.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think you've done a particularly good job of it, but that's up to
Yeah, I've done a
listeners.
great job. You just keep asking the same question.
No, but your explanation for it is that there's a law of science.
Stop.
Which is
Holy shit. Just fucking stop.
It's based on the.
Just stop or I'm going to kick you. Last warning. Shut the fuck up. So tired of answering the same question over and over again. Holy shit. Is there evidence for it? No, we don't need to. I think it's highly likely. If you disagree, okay, be a dumbass. I don't care.
All right. Well, I appreciate the conversation, Tom. Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else got anything? What did you think of your debate today? The Dan, I think was his name.
I don't think it was supposed to be a debate. It was just more a conversation, but I just gave it my general title.
Yeah, it was definitely not a debate, that's for sure. It was just some guy being super friendly, like over the top friendly, like, hey, look at me, I'm a Christian.
Yeah, it
This
wasn't
is how friendly we all are.
Yeah, it wasn't scheduled as a debate, so it's just an open conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely didn't go. I was thinking it was gonna, just from the evidence of God thing. I know you put that on anything that generally has to do with God, but yeah, he definitely didn't. I mean, did you think of anything where he actually gave any, possibilities for evidence of God? I don't remember any.
I didn't ask for any. So again, I never told him about that title. The title was completely separate from the conversation. It's the thing I put on there. So it wasn't supposed to be.
That's what I figured. Since you said you just generally do that for all those things, so I figured.
Yep. So it was. He didn't expect. I never told him I was going to ask for evidence. So that was not his fault. It would be mine for putting that title in without him knowing or something.
Yeah, I understand.
Thank you for the super chat, Goblin. Like, anyone should know I'm annoyed if I have to repeat the answer over and over again. I'm always annoyed for having to repeat the answer over and over again, so that should not be a surprise. Thank you for the super chat, Antipode. Some define good as something. Stop scrolling. Some define good as something that ought to be done. How do you define good in your system? Where you have no oughts. I think good is the state of having no involuntary imposition of will. That's good. Or something along those lines. No involuntary imposition of will is good.
Tom, was that the most mad you ever got during the debate? Because I've never seen you that pissed.
What, you mean like 5 minutes ago? No.
Yeah.
That was definitely not the most, no.
Most mad probably be one of my like Jay Dyers.
Yeah.
Who's more annoying, Trey Jadlow or Smokey?
I don't find either of them that annoying. They're both like moderately levels annoying.
Oh, okay.
Anybody else got any questions? I'm probably gonna get dinner soon.
Just a random thing. I definitely think you're heading in the right direction with doing more debates more often and kind of keeping them more regular, and having the after shows and stuff like that. I think it's definitely helping. I like it a lot.
Thanks. Yeah, I hope so. It definitely seems to keep more viewers than just doing like a Q&A separate or something.
Yeah. Yep.
And Depo, thank you for the super chat. What would you say that justified immoral acts are good? Sort of, because they minimize the involuntary imposition of will. So they're the least involuntary imposition of will you can do. So good in a general sense, sure. I guess that fits. I guess that's a good way to define good, as getting the closest to the best of all possible worlds you can. Good is like a pragmatic definition, sure. I didn't find Dee Dee that annoying. Somebody said if infinite patience with Dee Dee. Like Dee Dee didn't really ask the same question over and over again very much. He did actually make progress, sort of.
Right? He's almost just fun to play with. Like, it's so insanely predictable.
Yeah, the hard thing with him though is he doesn't give you enough time to speak. I think that's the most annoying thing about Dee Dee.
Agreed.
But
Tries to control every.
I do find his tree interesting. His conversation tree.
Yep. He's got it down to science.
So I would definitely like to. I would enjoy talking to somebody and going through his conversation tree if they were more amicable. Thank you for the super chat. Meistrahan. Is a debate your default method for changing someone's mind? My goal has never been to change someone's mind. Do not care. I think debate has like a 0 point something % effectiveness of changing people's minds. I don't know. Like the best way to change people's minds is just science, I guess. That probably has a higher success rate than debate. Still a pretty low success rate overall.
You mean of changing the person's mind you're debating against?
His question is debate your default method for changing someone's mind? And so for changing someone's mind, debate is not very effective. It's a very low % of debate of minds are changed.
Psychology would do better.
Of what?
Really? Because I oh yeah, go ahead.
Axiom said something about.
Yeah, I just think psychology would probably do better than a debate.
Psychology? You mean like explaining psychology to someone?
I think it'd be more about getting to know the individual and using like psychology, figuring out why they believe what they believe. Basically, street epistemology mixed with tough questions to figure out what they went through, why they went through it, how that links to past experiences, etc., and how you can basically reformulate their ideas.
I think that definitely has a slightly higher success rate than debates, because street epistemology, especially since it's using cognitive dissonance and just asking questions, is a lot better than confrontational disagreement, but still has a low success rate.
I was going to say for the debate part that, yeah, I definitely agree that it doesn't hardly ever change that other interlocutor's mind. But whenever you look at the intelligence squared debates that they do, where they, take polls of the before and after, I mean, they change hundreds of people's minds at a time when they go into those things.
Maybe, but I think they're told, like, when you're into those things, judge it based off of the quality of the debate, not necessarily like. I don't know if those are effective transitions of beliefs. I don't know if those people continue to change their belief and permanently, like, I'm going to go advocate for this new topic,
right?
Or if it's just something
it
like
definitely takes more than one conversation.
Yeah. So I think that might be more of a show kind of a thing where they allow people in the audience who are just open to listen and stuff, and they're not like that community is more open to listening to arguments in general than like the average
That's
people.
True. Yeah, it's not a very good sample. Yeah, I agree.
Like what do you think would change the mind of your average American on any topic?
I'd say, yeah, I actually think that, the whole concept of using their mind against their own mind is probably the most effective way to do it.
Yep.
It's a very interesting topic because I studied a bit about it. It's a very interesting way to go about it. It's very in-depth.
Beetlebomb, TJump, who are you wishing to debate the most right now? William Lane Craig, maybe? I mean, I'd like to debate William Lane Craig, Frank Turret, guys. Happy DA. Thank you for the super chat. Hey, Guy, hoping all is well, my man. I got a message saying you should be receiving the... Oh, yes. I got the teeth whitening stuff. Thank you. Appreciate it for sure. I got it today. Yep. Thank you. Sent me some really fancy, nice teeth whitening stuff because I got yellow teeth.
I'm actually doing the same thing. That's funny. Oh, what kind do you have?
I have no idea. He just sent me the stuff he is because he's a dentist guy. So,
gotcha.
I could tell you what he didn't get.
Acid, cocaine, meth. There's a lot of things I did not get.
You think religion in general, overall, if like you were to split, try to figure out what the split is, would you say religion is more or less harmful for humanity right now, as of just today, not of the past?
It's a complicated question. So I think that it's like asking, is a spear more harmful or less in society today? Like, spears were great 2,000 years ago. They really, really benefited a lot of people. But today we have guns and stuff. So
exactly. So what's your answer? Take your best guess.
I mean, well, the question is like.
Also, wouldn't that be like Swanee?
What? Well, the question is like, would humans today, like, if religion, if we could replace all of their memories with non-religious ideas, so they didn't like have all of their biases, religious biases, would they still be as positively benefited by those secular ideas? Maybe.
Exactly.
I think that would work.
I think they would. I honestly think it's more harmful than less harmful.
But I mean, like, if we let's say we just disproved every religion tomorrow, like just proved every religion wrong. Yep. I don't think that would be good for society. I think a lot of religious people would go crazy.
First, I agree. But I think after things settle down and people realize the truth, then they'll be like, okay, well, now we're all on the same page. This is beautiful. We can actually work together now.
Oh, I think shit would burn.
It would for a little while, for sure. Maybe like a few hundred years.
It sounds like
for a little while, a few generations.
Just a little bit.
We'd be back in the Stone Age. People would go shit nuts.
I definitely don't think it's every single religion that is the problem. There is atheistic religions.
Yeah, there's definitely some that are more harmful than others. That's for sure.
There are definitely atheistic religions, sort of, and I definitely want to create one, so I definitely agree there.
Yeah. I'm a part of an atheistic religion, so. Yeah.
Which one?
I do not speak for the Church of Satan, but I am a member of the Church of Satan.
Which one is, because I keep getting those confused, the Church of Satan and the Satan?
LaVey.
Gotcha. Which is the one that like actually worships Satan? Is that the Satanic Temple?
That would be the Satanic Temple, and I'm not trying to misrepresent. I'm only going off of what their original website said. But if you want to go with more evidence-based, Luciferians believe in a literal worship of a semi-Satan, but they replace Satan with Lucifer.
Those are the same, aren't they? Lucifer is the fallen angel.
No,
Satan.
No. So Satan only ever meant the adversary. It was more of a position in the Hebrew Bible than it was an actual entity. Lucifer was in the Bible a fallen angel, but before the Bible was a Roman god. Bringer of the light, by the way. A lot of people don't know that.
I thought that was Prometheus.
Very fascinating information. I provide links if you so wish. But I think a lot of people who worship Satan would, like a personification of Satan, would probably be more along the pagan areas. Some of the pagans believe in a literal worship of Satan. Some pseudo-Christians believe in a literal worship of Satan. It really depends on the religion.
What? You broke up.
A story about is conducted by Justin Barrett in Oxford.
Justin Barrett? What about Justin Barrett? Is that the Got Questions guy?
He conducted a study, I think, and they concluded that 1.9 million people are that are randomly selected around the world. They're predisposed to believe in a god. Like, I don't know, like the details, but I came across with these arguments when I was debating with a theist.
Yes, I do recall that. That sounds very familiar. I think there was also another study about how conservatism and religion are a part of the same kind of psychological function in a lot of ways.
There's a very interesting book about the similarities between the two. Or at least I think there is. Can't remember the book's name, though.
All right, guys, I'm going to get off, get some food. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for watching and showing the after show. Appreciate the super chats. And I'll see you tomorrow for mango tea. Exciting.
See you, bud.